What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. Now, with this video, we are jumping into DC versus vampires. This will be issue number 1, coming from the minds of James Tynion and Matthew Rosenberg. We're going to be following Andrew Bennett, the vampire from I, Vampire. And this is going to be a 12-issue limited series. And we figure it's about time that they come into this. With them doing the whole zombie thing, with all of the major events going on, we figured it was only a matter of time before we saw some more vampires showing up. And the vampires are coming to take over the universe. And with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into this first issue, we're picking up at the Hall of Justice, or just outside of the Hall of Justice. And that is where we have Andrew Bennett, completely covered up, avoiding the sun as much as possible, but needing to move during the daytime, because right now, Andrew Bennett is on the run. I, Vampire is making his way to the Hall of Justice to try and find the Justice League, having nowhere else to turn and needing their help. Not only him, but the entire world is going to need their help. Being forced to run and hide, use the daylight to his advantage, because right now he is being hunted. But at this point, Andrew has no clue who they could be, believing them to be absolutely anybody. And with each passing day, they are growing closer and closer to him. Now, as Bennett starts to reach the Hall of Justice, just outside of it, he tries crossing the street only to get hit by a car. Being hit by this car, people rush over to try and help him, to see if he is okay. With his bandages coming undone, he starts to be exposed to the sun and we see him start to catch fire. But lucky for him, there is someone home. That someone being our Green Lantern Hal Jordan. And with Hal Jordan finding him outside, spontaneously bursting into flames, he uses the power of the ring to shield him and bring him inside. And with them going inside, they lay him down, give him a little bit time to rest. And in that time, we see him waking up. And what Bennett is trying to tell Hal Jordan is that it's not safe. Not only that, he needs to speak to all of the Justice League. He needs to talk to everybody because there is a world-ending event coming their way. Now, unfortunately, Justice League is currently off planet. The only one that is behind is Green Lantern. Well, Green Lantern and our Wonder Twin Zane, with him coming into the room, kind of just breaking up the party. Hal Jordan has a kind of distaste for him. It's not that he doesn't like him, he just finds him a bit annoying. But after we get a little bit of small talk out of the way, Bennett starts to drop into the conversation, talking more specifically about what they know about vampires. More specifically, do they know of Mary, Queen of Blood? And while they know a little bit of the history, Andrew Bennett was married to the Queen. But over time, due to differences, they parted ways and they became nemesis. Now, Mary, Queen of Blood, she is a vampire elder. She is the leader of the Cult of Blood Red Moon. And whatever she wants, whatever she wishes, is considered law among all of the vampires. She is the one that sets the tone for all other vampires to follow. Now, obviously, vampires don't seem like the best of things, but Mary was the only thing stopping vampires from trying to take over the world, from killing as many humans as they see fit. Over the last century, Mary has been the only thing standing between chaos and order. But the issue is, Mary, Queen of Blood, she is now dead. More specifically, someone has murdered her, and she was the only thing holding back all-out war. Now, of course, Hal Jordan, he has to ask the question, did you kill her? Though you may have been her lover at one point in time, you are saying that you are enemies more or less. And because of that, that raises the question that you might be the prime suspect in this case. But Bennett says that it wasn't him, that in fact he had spent the last couple of weeks trying to hunt down that murderer, chasing down dead ends, going for any kind of rumor, any kind of lead that he can get. But every lead, every path, it led him to one spot, and that is the Legion of Doom. Now, sneaking in wouldn't be extremely easy, but Bennett, turning into a bat, he thinks that he can slip in and at least try to figure out why they murdered her. What was the reason behind killing Mary? But when he arrived inside, the only thing that he found were bodies. Bodies of all the Legion of Doom, or at least a good majority of the Legion. And so whoever killed Mary, they got here first. And it was an absolute bloodbath. Definitely being the work of vampires. Mary's death was not random. It was more the start of a revolution, part of a much bigger plan. Now, Andrew, he feared that this might be the beginning of the war against the humans. But after going through the Legion of Doom and seeing what these people had planned, the plan isn't just to go to war with the humans. This is a plan for all-out genocide, with them having some kind of plan to block out the sun forever, so that vampires could walk the grounds freely, never worrying about sunlight. Now, realizing how significant of a plan this is, he knows that he has to get out of here, that he has to go warn somebody. And as he goes to make his exit, this is where somebody stops him. That somebody being Lex Luthor. Now, Lex Luthor holding a wooden stake in his hand, ready to impale Andrew, believing him to be one of them that came here and slaughtered everybody. But he quickly learns that Andrew is not working with them or for them or anything of that nature, that while he may be a vampire, his intentions are not to hurt anybody here. Now, Lex Luthor, at this point, he's not able to leave. He's on his deathbed sitting right here, but he writes down an address. He gives it to Andrew and tells him that he needs to go to this place, that if he is going to fight back against them, not knowing who they are, not knowing who it could be, believing that he was in cahoots with all of this to begin with, that if he is going to fight back, that address needs to be his next stop. Now, obviously, Andrew knows that the Justice League, they're not just going to believe him. They're not just going to trust a vampire. But Lex Luthor, he takes some of his blood, a good vial, out of his neck and says to take this to them. Show them what it can do. Show them how they can trust you and how to win this war. And as he sits here saying that they will eventually return and that he doesn't want to be turned into a vampire, they are only leaving him here so they can torture and toy with him, getting everything they wanted out of him. There is no use for Lex Luthor anymore, at least in the vampire's eyes. And so he asks Andrew Bennett to kill him, not through vampire fangs or anything of that nature, but to use his hands, to extinguish his life and ensure that he cannot return. And with his dying breath, he tells him to let the world know that it was me who saved them. And as Andrew tries to make his escape, we see Gorilla Grodd, we see Cheetah, appearing to be vampires, chasing him down. Getting caught up by one of these vampires, they grab him and throw him against the wall. Taking a little bit of Lex's blood, he injects it into this guy's eye, and he turns to ash immediately, recognizing the weapon that he has in his hand. How this can alter the course of this entire war, to give humans a real fighting chance. And so he is able to slip away. He runs, he hides, he moves during the daytime, he uses the sun to his advantage, not sure if he is going to be able to make it where he needs to go, having their agents everywhere. That's what led him to the Justice League, and that's what brings us back to current time. Now, Hal Jordan, he finds this a little bit difficult to believe. You know, that's a big story to tell. And he is a vampire at the end of the day. So what good reason should they believe this? Now, Bennett tells him that he doesn't have any proof to this, and no one else can corroborate this story. And so it really looks like it's unbelievable. But this is where we see the tone drastically change. We see the Wonder Twin get tied up by a Green Lantern construct, and we see that Hal Jordan, our Green Lantern, he is an agent of chaos. He is a vampire. Now, by all appearances, Hal Jordan has been able to hide his vampirism, not knowing how long he's been able to hide it, but he has been using his Green Lantern ring. More or less, he's been using it as a shield to reflect all of the UV rays that have been coming down from the sun, to block out anything harmful that could hurt him. And Hal Jordan, he can also produce that amount of sunlight, enough to burn down a vampire to ashes. And that's exactly what we see Hal Jordan do, with him simultaneously killing our Wonder Twin and also killing Andrew Bennett, burning him completely to ashes. Hal Jordan, he makes a phone call to someone he calls Master, saying that the job is done, that the traitor has been taken care of. Not only that, he has not told anybody else about what is going on. And so, as everyone else is aware, there is no war, there is no vampire nation that's about ready to attack. It is going to take all of them completely by surprise. But of course, that takes us to the Batcave. Later that night, with Bruce Wayne making his way back home, Alfred is waiting for him, waiting with a message. And that message is telling the entire story of what is going on, from start to finish, breaking it all down, because Batman was his first stop. Before he went to the Hall of Justice, he stopped by Wayne Manor. This is the address that Lex Luthor gave him, telling him to stop here first before anywhere else. Because if anybody can stop the vampires from taking over the entire world, it would be none other than Batman. Not only that, Batman is armed with the one weapon that is going to take them all down, and that is Lex Luthor's blood. We are picking up with Antone Arcane, a very powerful mage, sitting here in meditation, letting Hal Jordan know that there is no way he could ever sneak up on him. So why is he hiding in the shadows? With Hal Jordan letting him know that he knows there is no way he could ever sneak up on him, he simply does not care. And we see Hal Jordan go in with a full attack, with Arcane doing everything he can to prevent Hal Jordan getting toe-to-toe with him, no matter how powerful his magic is. Right now, Hal Jordan Green Lantern, his willpower is stronger than ever, and he breaks through every line of defense the mage throws at him. And we see Hal Jordan rip out the spine of Arcane. And what Hal Jordan is doing is taking out mages, taking out magic users, because that is something that can be used against the vampires. But what Hal Jordan did not know is that his master was in the room. Staying in the shadows, we do not see who this is, but Hal Jordan, he drops to his knees as soon as he hears his master's voice, being completely submissive to whoever this is. But our vampire lord lets us know that we're getting away from those kind of formalities. But the vampire lord is here for a reason, and that is because they have a problem. That problem being Andrew Bennett, the individual that left the letter for Batman, letting him know of this pending vampire invasion. And right now, they have absolutely no clue where he is. And the concern right now is that he is going to divulge all of the information about this vampire attack. And he tells Hal Jordan that he needs to ensure that all of the superheroes, they remain distracted, just in case he has told anybody and those rumors become roars. Ensure that the Justice League has complete distrust in one another, because the last thing they need is the wrong person figuring out who they are. And that is what will take us to Wayne Manor. And instead of meeting inside of the cave, Batman has called the Bat family to the main sunroom. And that is because after receiving that letter, he is now suspicious of everybody. But to combat this vampire invasion that may be on the horizon, he's going to need all hands on deck. And so bringing them to the sunroom, it helps him prove that they are not vampires. And with everybody being in the sunlight, he starts to divulge the information that he has gotten, telling them about the letter, telling them about Andrew Bennett. He tells them about how there was a coup in the vampire leadership. And because of that coup, the truce that they have had for over a century, it doesn't look like it is going to hold any longer. And if this were the case, if there is a new Lord of Vampires, The first act would be to remove any of the coverts or remove any metahumans that they could. Now, they don't really have any direct evidence just as yet, but it's looking like villain activity is down everywhere, and that could be because they're targeting low-end villains, lowering the crime rate. Because if you're going to take over metahumans, if you're gonna go for the Justice League, you need to be able to infiltrate the Justice League, even from the lowest levels, working your way up, so that none of them can see it coming. And this is where we pick up with Oliver Queen, and he is confronting some low-level villains, as well as Everyman. And he has come to let them know that there are vampires running rampant through the criminal underworld, taking out low-level vampires, and he lets them know that there is a vampire among them, that vampire being Everyman. With Everyman whipping out his fangs, he goes in to attack Oliver Queen. With him drawing his arrow back and unleashing it, he puts him down, and he lets the rest of them know that they are no longer safe, and they need to start preparing for the war that is about to come. Now, back at Wayne Manor, they're discussing the best way to figure out who they're gonna go after first. Now, of course, they know it's going to be metahumans. Most likely, it's going to be villains first, because they go underground for prolonged time, trying to hide away from any kind of heat after they do a job or something of that nature. If they go missing for a couple of weeks, it's not really going to be noticed. They would also need to take out any telepaths and psychics, anything that could find out the limits of their plans, to find out what their true intentions actually are. Not only that, they are going to be targeting magic users as well. Being susceptible to sunlight, they are going to be targeting individuals like Ray and Dr. Light. Not only that, they are going to be targeting all of the younger individuals. They'll have to start making inroads into the superhero community. They'll do everything they can to infiltrate them. They may already have members in the Titans, in the Outsiders, the Birds of Prey, but Batman believes that getting to a Justice League member in the early stages would probably be very too difficult, and so they're gonna target the younger ones. The younger ones will eventually get the bigger guys, not knowing at this time that Hal Jordan has already been turned. A major key player is already on the enemy side. And with Red Hood asking the question, if anybody can be a vampire, then who do we trust? And of course, it being Batman, he does not trust anybody, because he had holy water put in all of their cocoa, their tea, anything that they were drinking. He is ensuring that they are not vampires. And after doing that test, he takes them down into the Batcave, and he has one last test for them. Grabbing a crucifix, he hands one to each of them, ensuring that it does not burn their skin when they touch it. And we see him reveal his wall of vampire hunting equipment. Everything that you could possibly imagine to bring down a vampire. Now, usually there's a no-kill rule, but that rule is being lifted because the vampires, they have already been turned. They are already dead, and there is no reversing it. Now, what he is not disclosing to anybody else is that there could possibly be a cure to all of this, and that is Lex Luthor's blood. And a little later that evening, Alfred asked the very question, why did you not tell them about that vial? Why didn't you tell them about Lex Luthor's blood and the possibility of it being a cure for vampirism? And he lets them know, even after all of the tests that he has done, he does not trust that information with anybody that is not inside this room. Alfred being the one individual he trusts. Not only that, he's been testing him as well by having the house's water switched out with holy water. So when Alfred had taken a shower, it would have burned him right there on the spot if he in fact was a vampire. Now that's where we pick up later on that evening, and we have a meetup of our Green Lantern Hal Jordan and Barry Allen, aka The Flash. And Hal Jordan has asked him here to this secluded location to have a conversation. And really it's a little bit of rambling until he tells him that something good has happened to him. The best thing that could have ever happened to him, it has happened. And he really wanted Barry Allen to be a part of this. And in the midst of this conversation, he uses the power of the Green Lantern ring and he entraps Barry Allen right here on the spot, telling him that he tried to argue for him, but his new lord simply could not have a speedster on the forces of the vampires. And it's simply because of his metabolism, because of his speed. It would be an absolute genocide. He would have an undying thirst that he would have to feed over and over and over again. He would literally drink this planet to death. And though Hal Jordan, he proclaims that he did everything he could to argue for him, even when he knew that this is something that could not happen, he still tried to argue, because at the end of the day, he still sees them as those friends, the ones that have cared about one another, the ones that have been there fighting side by side after all of these years. Now, while he's going on this whole monologue, we see Barry Allen, he phases. But the thing is, he stops phasing. He stops phasing so he can try to reach out to Hal Jordan, to tell him that he doesn't need to do this, that this is not him. But in a split second, we see Hal Jordan break the neck of Barry Allen. And with the death of the Flash, he lets him know that he really did want to rule the world with him. Alright gang, so as we dive into issue number 3, we are picking up with the Justice League staring at the dead body of Barry Allen. And right now, the Justice League, they are faced with only questions. How could this be possible? Who could have possibly killed the Flash? With no one understanding why he is here. No one understanding what could have brought Barry Allen to this place. Hal Jordan is the one spearheading all of these questions. Now we know he is the murderer. He is the one that stopped Barry Allen from doing anything, using his vampire hypnosis, compelling him to not move. He was able to take down Barry Allen. And now he is doing everything he can to try to cover his tracks. And of course, Batman, he has some theories. But right now, he is not willing to share those theories with anybody, believing that anybody could possibly be an infiltrator. They could be a traitor. And so until he has his suspicions completely verified, he is not going to come forward with any information. And so we see Hal Jordan telling everyone which directions they need to go in, how to start searching, checking out the Flash's rogue list, seeing if any of them might have possibly been responsible for what has happened. And this is where the story takes us to Ratcatcher. And right now, Ratcatcher is dealing with a vampire, because the vampire, they have been hunting down the criminal underlords all over the city. Any criminal that has any kind of name to them, they have been doing their best to turn them or take them off the field completely. By starting with all of the villains, this is how they plan to take down all of society. Lucky for Ratcatcher, we have Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, coming in to save the day. Not really sure what Ratcatcher is up to. This is until she realizes that this guy that Ratcatcher is actually fighting is a freaking vampire. Going in to take a bite out of her, she is very quick to knock this vampire right on his butt. And we see the two of them start battling it out, with Batgirl getting some great hits in, but at the end of the day, she ends up getting overpowered, and she is luckily saved by Nightwing. And so at least for the time being, we know that Babs and Dick, they are both still regular human beings and they haven't been turned yet. But they are now learning that there are gangs of vampires going out and taking criminals down. Our story taking us down underneath the Hall of Justice, down into the sewer system. We have Janiyah and Batman. And our Wonder Twin, she has been looking for her missing brother for quite some time now, not knowing where he has been, not knowing where he disappeared to. She followed Batman down here, believing that he has some kind of lead on where her brother is. And she knows that he is looking for Zane down here. What Batman does know is that a vampire by the name of Andrew Bennett came looking for his help. And around the same time he went missing, the Wonder Twin did as well. Not only that, he found 2 sets of trace DNA in the Hall's infirmary, appearing to have someone clean all of this up. One set of those was vampire. The other one, it was alien. And so what Batman is really telling us is that the Wonder Twin, he is more than likely dead, and whatever remains of him is gotta be somewhere down in the sewers. And so as they begin their search for the Wonder Twin brother, we're picking up with Penguin running for his life. And that is because vampires are hot on his tail. And as he tries to make his escape, this is when he runs into Zatanna, letting her know that he is being chased by vampires. The vampires let her know that they have no problem with her, they have no beef with her, that Penguin was known to talk to Lex Luthor. Now Lex Luthor, he claimed to have a cure for vampirism. Something to do with his blood which he gave to Batman, ensured it made it to him prior to his death. Now what we quickly learn is Zatanna, she is in fact a vampire herself. Penguin completely unaware of this, but this is where the Penguin gets slaughtered. And so as the criminals of the underworld, they begin to fall one by one, we pick up at where Barry Allen had died. Sitting on that shoreline, we have Wonder Woman and Hal Jordan. And Hal Jordan is coming in, he's trying to do his best to have a conversation with her, to try to see if she is okay and make sure that this grief isn't hitting her too hard. But as they have this conversation, Wonder Woman is picking up on really small subtleties, such as Hal Jordan quickly getting used to referring to him in the past tense. And Wonder Woman, she's been finding it very difficult to even refer to him in that, accidentally referring to him as if he is still alive this entire time. Now Hal Jordan, he goes in to try to recover himself, to try to make himself look less suspicious, but this does not work. Wonder Woman is onto him. In a matter of seconds, she has her lasso out and wrapped around him. With him being compelled to tell the truth, Hal Jordan lets her know that she doesn't need a lasso. He will openly admit that he is a vampire, that he killed Barry Allen, letting her know that he had no intention of killing Barry, that in fact he wanted Barry Allen to join him, that he believed he understood power when he got the Green Lantern ring, but now that he is a vampire, he understands a far greater power. Of course, Wonder Woman, she is not willing to join vampirism. She is not willing to join the forces of murderers. But Hal Jordan, he is not concerned in the slightest bit, because he uses his vampire compulsion, hypnotizing Wonder Woman, letting her know that even though she is invulnerable, even though she is technically immortal, he wants to show her how great life can be. And we see Hal Jordan slowly go in for the bite, with his fangs going into her skin. It appears that Wonder Woman is now a vampire. Taking us back to the streets of Gotham, this is where we pick up with Canary. Canary going to the crime scene of the Penguin, with him murdered in the alleyway. This is happening all over the city. And in the shadows, there is Damian Wayne. With him coming out, he is very, very suspicious about Canary. Not sure if she is a vampire, she is not sure if he is a vampire, and so the two, they are at a standstill. That is, until the fight breaks out. Neither of them trusting one another, and with the fight commencing, Damian Wayne is obviously getting the upper hand. That is until Canary, she has something in her hand and jabs it into his stomach. That something being a needle so she could draw his blood, because what she needs is proof that he is not a vampire. And with her giving him a swift kick to the face, Damian not only learns that she is not a vampire, she now has a vial of his blood to go back and test it and ensure that Damian is also not infected. Picking back up with Batman, he goes diving into the sewer, looking for any remnants of our Wonder Twin. But coming up to the surface, there is only a piece of him left over, appearing to be nothing more than a fingertip. We see his sister just break down. But with those tears, then comes the anger, demanding to know who did this, demanding to know what Batman knows up to this point. Batman can tell by the finger that it was not cut off with anything metal, that it was done so smoothly, so clean, that it had to be done with light. And following back up with Canary, we see that they are on some beaten off path, a truck stop that looks to be closed down. Walking into the building, she is met by Speedy. And soon after, we see Oliver Queen, aka Green Arrow. And what Canary has been doing this entire time is going out and scouting, trying to figure out who is a vampire and who is not. Now, they had suspicions that Penguin may be a vampire. Obviously, those suspicions have been stomped out because Penguin is now dead, and letting Oliver know that she did run into Damian. And though Damian, he was acting kinda weird, Oliver lets her know, that's not really out of the normal for Damian, because Damian is a weird kid. But they do have vials of his blood and other individuals to test them and see who may be a vampire and who is not. The biggest concern is that the vampires have gotten to Batman, because if Batman has become infected, he would be smart enough to be able to out-trick, outmaneuver, and outplay Oliver Queen every step of the way, and that includes the blood that would be tested from him. And so right now, regardless of anything, they cannot trust anybody that is in the Bat family. Taking us to the Hall of Justice, we have all of our heroes meeting up, with all of them going in different directions, trying to find villains all over the world. It appears that many of their rogue lists, many of their villains and arch nemesis, they have all gone missing. But two individuals walk into the room with some of the most devastating news. The two walking in is Hal Jordan and Diana Prince, with them informing the Justice League that Batman had killed Barry Allen. And Constantine is doing exactly what you would expect him to be doing. He is sitting at a bar alone and he is drinking. But as he is doing this, we see the arrival of Zatanna. Now, we know from the last issue that she was also turned into a vampire, and coming into the bar asking Constantine if they can go somewhere more private. As soon as he turns his back, Zatanna goes to attack him in an effort to turn him into a vampire, but John Constantine, he already knew. He saw this coming a mile away. The moment she walked into the bar, the way she was acting after all of the time that they have known each other, he immediately knew something was off, and he's also known about this whole vampire issue. But more than anything, he wants someone to sit down and just listen to him gripe. Zatanna, being a vampire, being a little bit confused about this tactic, the two of them, they sit down, they have a drink, and John Constantine, he drops everything, lets her know everything that's going on with his life, starting this conversation off with how's it feel being dead. And I think they played this perfectly. I could 100% see John Constantine doing something of this nature, especially with Zatanna. Of all the people in the entire DC universe, I think they nailed this just 100% on the head. And that's what's going to take us to the Batcave. And right now, Batman is trying to get as many blood samples from around the city as he possibly can, trying to figure out who's infected, how widespread this actually is, and how soon they can expect some kind of invasion, if you will, an attempt to overthrow all of society. But while he sits at his Bat computer, he gets a silent alarm. With him shutting off the lights, we see someone move in to make their attack, moving from the shadows, using a bow and arrow. We see Green Arrow attempt to take out Batman. But as Green Arrow approaches what he thought was Batman, it was just a decoy, with Batman hiding in the shadows. Green Arrow knows that he is in some trouble. Taking us to Old Gotham, we are picking up with Nightwing and Oracle. And right now, they are working for Batman to try to track down where all of this started. They know it has something to do with the Queen of Blood. Not only that, they had tracked her to this hotel room down in Old Gotham, and it appears that she made a visit. Not sure why she made this visit. That's what they have to investigate. That is what they are trying to uncover. Why would the Queen of Blood make her way to Gotham City? And if she did, why all the secrecy? And taking us back to the Batcave, this is where we have the fight between Batman and the Green Arrow, with Arrow believing that he got the drop on Batman, only for Batman to be hiding in the shadows. And we see the two of them, they battle it out, fighting one another, both of them believing the other to be a vampire, completely unaware of this. That is, until Batman gets hit in the face with some holy water, and Batman is currently trying to drive a stake into the chest of Arrow. And this is when they both come to the realization that neither of them are actually a vampire. And it's absolutely hilarious because they both thought that one another was a vampire. They both thought they had turned, gone in without any questioning, and immediately attacked. And honestly, you can't blame Arrow, because even if you had the smallest inclination that Batman actually might be a vampire, how many options do you truly have if he is in fact a vampire? You're pretty much screwed, but you have to take the opportunity. You gotta take that shot 100% of the time. But now the question that they must ask one another is, where the heck are all the vampires? Picking back up with John Constantine and Zatanna, the two of them sitting down having a wonderful conversation, with it being interrupted by Dr. Fate, him teleporting in trying to get John Constantine because of the vampire threat, the vampire war that is about to break out. With Zatanna jumping at Dr. Fate, he immediately vanquishes her. Of course, Constantine is livid about this, because regardless of her being a vampire, she was his friend. And very reluctantly, John Constantine is gonna go with Dr. Fate and help save the world as usual. With the Vampire Kingdom now on the march, we are taken to the Batcave, where Green Arrow and Batman are consolidating their knowledge on who has been turned and who they suspect has been turned. And their combined knowledge, they are figuring out this goes much deeper than anything they could have imagined. With small-time criminals all over the cities, all over the country, all over the world starting to turn, both of them know that it is much deeper and there is someone bigger at play. And so as their conversation continues on, Batman reveals to him that Green Lantern has in fact been turned into a vampire. And Batman knows for a fact that he is not at the top of the list. He's not at the top of the food chain. Of course, this being very hard for Oliver to take, with the two of them being so close. Not only that, Hal Jordan also killed Barry Allen. And at first, Ollie, he wants to ask the question, are you sure? But he knows Batman. If Batman wasn't 100% sure, he would never even bring this topic up. And so the question remains, when do we go after them? When do we go and take him down? Now, of course, this is Batman and he has some kind of strategy, knowing that there is some kind of hierarchy when it comes to vampires. Hal Jordan's not at the top of it. And because of that, they need to find their way to the top. Not by taking out pawns, but finding the generals. Finding those in command. One of those individuals, we see Gorilla Grodd going against Red Hood, with Gorilla Grodd being turned into a vampire, and Red Hood completely outmatched here. We see Batgirl come up from behind and jab a stick right into his back. With it puncturing him, he turns into a vampire bat and he flies away, saving Red Hood's life. But they were here to investigate, to try to find one of the generals. And a clue they found just so happens to be a Joker card. And so at this point, Oliver and Bruce, they're really just trying to figure out who on the list they can take off. As they're discussing all of this information, this is when the alarms go crazy. And coming into the Batcave is Wonder Woman. And almost immediately, Green Arrow, he lets his guard down. Seeing Diana, he's wondering what she's doing here. But Batman, ever suspicious, he has to ask the question, why are you here? You never come here. What brings you here? And from behind them, we see Hal Jordan. And Green Lantern and Wonder Woman, they are telling Oliver and Bruce that they have an infection in their blood, that they are here to help them. And Batman lets Arrow know that the two of them are in fact vampires. And as they try to take on Wonder Woman and Green Lantern at the same time, we hear another alarm. something even more concerning. Breaking down the wall, we see the entirety of the Justice League. And Wonder Woman and Green Lantern, they have convinced the Justice League that Oliver and Bruce are in fact infected and vampires. And so Superman and the others, they believe that they are here to help them. And Batman quickly realizes that something has gone astray, that Superman is in fact here for him. And because of this, he tells Oliver Queen, he tells Green Arrow that it is time. And we have Batman, Green Arrow versus the Justice League. Alright gang, so as we dive into issue 5 of 12, we are picking up somewhere in Gotham. We have the Suicide Squad. They are making their assault on what they believe to be a Joker hideout. Their target being the one and only Clown Prince. The only problem with that, when they get into the building, they find nothing but lifeless bodies all over the place and no sign of Joker. And so while Task Force X, they try to figure out what they're going to do next, we pick up in the Batcave. And we have the Justice League versus Green Lantern and Batman. Green Arrow trying to figure out what their plan is going to be. Batman tells him to just shoot arrows. And while the two of them, they are able to hold off most of the Justice League, that is until Superman intervenes. Not wanting to hurt anybody, wanting to try to find some kind of civil way of bringing these two leaguers in. With everyone breaking out into a fight, Superman goes over and he grabs Batman, begging Batman to please let us help you. Let us get you some kind of help. Batman not understanding how they were able to get to Superman, not understanding how Superman cannot see through this entire facade. Recognizing that Superman is not going to back down, he pulls out his secret weapon, and that is a hidden capsule of kryptonite in his mouth. Breaking this capsule in his teeth, he blows it directly in the face of Superman. Him inhaling this kryptonite, it brings him down to the ground. Batman giving him an awesome uppercut. Superman has been disabled from the battle temporarily, which means Green Arrow, Batman, they may actually have a chance, especially down in the Batcave. Meanwhile, we have our Suicide Squad. They are inspecting the bodies. They are recognizing these bodies have all been drained of blood, which means only one thing. That means that there are vampires out there, and Joker is unaccounted for, and so they have to assume that Joker has also been turned into a vampire. With them getting in communication with Amanda Waller to figure out what they do next, she lets them know the mission still stands. You need to capture Joker and bring him in alive, vampire or not. Unfortunate for them, the Joker left someone behind, and that is a vampiric King Shark. With King Shark sneaking up behind them and ripping Black Spider in half, the Suicide Squad is going to have to fight their way out of this. Taking us back over to the Batcave, we have Cyborg stopping all hostility, letting everyone know that we need to stop this before it gets too out of hand. And Cyborg tells Batman that they know that his blood is infected and they want to lock him up just until they can find a cure. Batman letting him know that there is no cure, and that might not necessarily be true depending on what Lex Luthor had created. By all appearances, it looks like he made an antidote to vampirism with his own blood. It was more of an FU to both Batman and Superman, saying, I saved the world and you didn't. But Batman tries to clear the air. He tries to let it be known that Hal Jordan, he is the one responsible for Barry Allen's death. Of course, he refutes this and says that they need to just take them down right now before they hurt anybody. Batman letting Cyborg know, the only one I know that is also turned is Diana. That if you are also not turned, you are fighting on the wrong side of this. But of course, the evidence that Diana and Hal brought to Cyborg, while it may be fake evidence, it is all they have to go on right now. Batman letting him know that he has evidence to prove that he is telling the truth. Bringing up the file on his computer, he lets Cyborg go ahead and look at what is on there. But instead of evidence, he initiated the security protocols. And with a giant surge of electricity hitting Cyborg, the entire Batcave, it goes dark. But it's not just the Batcave. The entire city loses power because of this surge. With our Bat family still out there in the city trying to do what they can to stop these vampires, they recognize this power surge. It came somewhere close from the Batcave. With Damian being the closest one, they send him to go investigate. Meanwhile, inside the cave, we have Green Lantern. He is using his ring to illuminate the cave and try to find Green Arrow and Batman. Unlucky for Green Lantern, Batman has a contingency, and that contingency is a powder he calls 130858 Yellow. This powder is going to neutralize the Green Lantern's power. It is going to take him out of the fight, at least temporarily. With Green Arrow coming up and shooting one of his arrows, he is able to hit Hal Jordan right in the shoulder, letting Batman know that he missed. Batman knows that this was an intentional miss. He missed Hal Jordan's heart because he didn't want to kill his friend. Green Arrow, he never misses. Just like Batman doesn't make a mistake. And so as Oliver, he prepares to shoot the next arrow, he releases it only for Martian Manhunter to grab that arrow before it takes out Hal Jordan. Unfortunately for Martian Manhunter, that arrow, it bursts into flames. Batman using fire to push him into a teleporter. And Batman tells him as he is forcing him into this tube that he doesn't believe the vampires can turn him, and that once you get where you are going, come back and find us. And so, with Martian Manhunter being teleported out of here, he destroys the controls so he is not able to come back through it. And though they could have teleported themselves out, Batman lets Green Arrow know that they are not done here. As they continue to fight what members of the League are left, we pick up with the Suicide Squad, currently getting their butts handed to them by a vampiric King Shark. We see the arrival of Batgirl. Coming in from the ceiling, using a stake and taking out King Shark, she has saved the Suicide Squad. And so as they begin to regroup and figure out what their next action is, we have Diana versus Batman and Green Arrow, with Green Arrow trying to get her to give up, saying that it is a 2v1 and you can't win here. The only thing is, Oliver doesn't believe this himself. And as the three of them, they begin to brawl it out. Wonder Woman is obviously getting the upper hand. That is until Batman throws holy water into her face, with her face beginning to burn. This is when Hawkgirl finally realizes that Wonder Woman is a freaking vampire. Unfortunately, it is already too late for her. Wonder Woman having Hawkgirl in her grasp, she begins to turn her into a vampire. And though Green Arrow, he shoots an arrow to try to stop this, Wonder Woman blocks it with ease. With Batman in rough shape and bleeding out, Green Arrow asks Batman, "You know the weakness to everybody on the League. What is the weakness of Wonder Woman? Her only real weakness is being her friends. That obviously is not going to work anymore, considering she's a vampire and she is now eating all of her friends. And so their only option is to run." They start running as fast as they can, but they can't run fast enough. As Wonder Woman is on top of them, about ready to turn them, we see the arrival of Robin, we see Tim Drake and Damian coming in on a motorcycle and running Wonder Woman over. They put her on the ground just temporarily, with our Robins grabbing the two and getting out of there as quickly as possible. Once everyone has made their way out of the cave, Batman knows what he needs to do. He needs to slow them down with whatever it takes. Initiating a protocol, we see in the rearview mirror, the Batcave goes up in flames. And so with our heroes making their escape, back at the Batcave, there is nothing but rubble and flame. Still standing, we have Green Lantern and Wonder Woman. Green Arrow telling her that they got away and their master will not be pleased. And as rocks begin to move, we see Superman rising out of the ashes, letting them know that he had been sprayed with kryptonite, and right now he can barely get to his feet. With glowing red eyes, Green Lantern and Wonder Woman, they let him know that they have his back. Alright gang, so in issue number 6, we are picking up in a shack, a little hideaway in Gotham Harbor. We have the Bat family along with Green Arrow and some others. They are all recuperating. They are regrouping after the battle that they just had. Because while they were able to escape the Justice League, it was not unscathed. There is some good news in all of this though. That good news is that Alfred is still alive. And so while all of this is going on, we see the arrival of Nightwing, saying he came as quickly as he possibly could. Looking around the room, this is where he looks for Barbara Gordon, and she is currently preoccupied with the Suicide Squad. King Shark is currently a vampire, and they are doing everything they can to try to stay alive, with Barbara swooping in to try to help in any way she can. Harley Quinn is able to get in communication with Amanda Waller, filling her in on the situation. This is where heads start to detonate, and unfortunately for Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn did not mention he was not a vampire. So Amanda Waller, she flips that switch on him as well, and Captain Boomerang, his head explodes, with Barbara, Harley, and Deadshot being the only ones left standing. The reason they came here to begin with was to look for Joker. Believing that he is the Vampire King, they came to put it into his reign. Picking up at our little shack on Gotham Harbor, our Bat family, they hear a knock on the door. That knock has the arrival of Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, and Wonder Woman. At least for the time being, it is just the two of them, and they have both come to try and convince Batman to join their side, saying that they were friends and that they still are friends, letting the Bat family know that all of them could join them. They could all help them. If they simply came to their side, they would be enlightened on what comes next. And of course, nobody takes them up on this offer. With Batman saying no, we see the brawl break out, with Hal Jordan taking on most of the Bat family. Bruce Wayne goes toe-to-toe with Wonder Woman as Batman gets wrapped up in the lasso of truth. This is where Jason Todd hits a button. This button illuminates the entire room. They had it rigged with lights that could be very harmful to vampires. As their skin begins to catch flame, they grab the lasso and they wrap up Wonder Woman. And at this point, they're not even sure if this is going to hold her. But the truth is, they just need to contain her long enough to bring down Green Lantern. Unfortunately for them, they quickly get tangled up in light constructs, as Hal Jordan mocks Batman, saying, "How could you possibly think that you were going to win with some flashy lights?" The only thing Batman assumed though was that the lamp would slow them down, and what Hal Jordan had also assumed was that only masked individuals would be coming after him. From the darkness, we see Alfred Pennyworth coming out with a hatchet, and he chops the hand of Green Lantern right off. And with this amputation, the Green Lantern ring goes with it. With the defeat of Wonder Woman and Green Lantern, we are taken to the Suicide Squad and Barbara Gordon. As they investigate this place, they quickly learn that Joker has been murdered. The vampires made their way here and they took him off the board. Though every clue, all of the evidence, it led them directly to the Joker. This was all a setup. They were made to believe that the Joker was the Vampire King, taking us to a conversation between Green Arrow and Green Lantern. Oliver Queen really needs to know, why did you do it? How could you do it? And are you that same person? Is Hal Jordan still living in there? Of course, what he is referring to is how could he kill Barry Allen? Hal Jordan proclaiming that they will not be stopped. They now have Superman and all will be lost for them. And while Hal Jordan may now be a monster, the truth is he is still in there. He is still Hal. He's still the same person as he has always been. He's just changed. He's been a little bit altered. He still retains all of the memories, all of the adventures, all the time that they have spent together. And that's exactly what Ollie was afraid of, because the friend that he loves like a brother is trapped inside of this monster. And even if he can't say it himself, Hal Jordan would never be able to live with the guilt of killing Barry Allen, letting him know that this is for Barry and this is for you. Taking his arrow, he jams it into the chest of Hal Jordan. Wonder Woman screaming no. We see Hal Jordan turn to dust. And Batman, he attempts to say something to him, saying that we can't just go around taking them off the board. And honestly, all he tells him straight up, just shut your mouth. Once you have had to put down one of your family, you let me know. Until that day comes, you are not going to lecture me on what I can and cannot do. As he apologizes, this is where Batgirl gets in communication, filling him in on all of the information that she has learned. This brings her to one conclusion. The Vampire King has to be somebody within the family, believing that there are only a handful of individuals that could actually fool them this badly. And so with the enemy among them, Batman keeps this information to himself. He goes to tell everybody that Batgirl has found the location of Joker and that she will be returning to base momentarily. Before he can actually finish that sentence, this is where a hand goes through his chest. That hand is belonging to Nightwing. Ripping out the heart of Batman, Nightwing is the Vampire King. And I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw this reveal, I literally was like, no, not Nightwing. Anybody else but Dick Grayson. With Nightwing telling Batman as he dies that it is time to stop the charade. It is time to stop all of the lying. Though he wished he had been able to turn Batman, he still never would have trusted him even if he was a vampire. With Batman falling down to the ground, Cassie, Jason Todd, Damian Wayne, and Tim Drake all jump into action. All of them completely enraged, seeing their father taken down right before them by their own brother. The truth being, not a single one of them are a match for the Vampire King. Even prior to him becoming a vampire, he was their better by 1,000. Green Arrow, recognizing the situation, he is trying to evacuate everybody as quickly as possible. And as Nightwing takes down the Bat family one by one, we see that Tim Drake is the first one to go, with Nightwing knocking him down to the ground and smashing his face in. He does let him in on a little bit of a secret. Lets Tim Drake know that he spent so much time with the Bat family, he forgot about the other family, about the Titans. And Nightwing had already gotten his hands on Starfire. And while they were not able to turn her, her blood gave them the ability to more or less be a daywalker. Divulging this information, he takes his foot and he crushes the skull of Tim Drake. With Damian out of his mind in rage, watching his father die like that, watching his brother get his skull crushed in, Damian rushes in. He rushes in and he fights with everything he has. Not being quick enough, we see Dick Grayson able to bite his neck. This is not an attempt to turn him into a vampire. Because of his temper, Dick Grayson has no plans on turning him to their side. He's gonna open up his neck and he is letting him bleed out. As Oliver Queen and Alfred are loading Cassie's broken body onto a submarine, Jason Todd turns around and he goes to face his brother. Green Arrow telling him it is already too late, but he has to try, letting Nightwing know that he had always been holding back, and now is the chance to see who really is the best. Nightwing letting him know that it's not too late, you can still join my side, because with the death of Green Lantern, he is gonna need a new lieutenant. And honestly, for a second here, it really does look like Red Hood has the upper hand. Getting Nightwing down on the ground, what he forgot about was Wonder Woman. Being able to break out of the lasso of truth, she comes up behind him and she bites him. This is where Jason Todd begins to be turned into a vampire, with Wonder Woman taking her blood and pouring it into his mouth. As he slowly begins to change, telling him that he would have beaten him. He also says, "Do it." Talking to the Archer, we see a Green Arrow come flying in and it pierces the heart of Jason Todd. As Green Arrow, Cassie, and Alfred make their escape, we have just seen the destruction of the entire Bat family. Nightwing had really hoped that he was able to turn at least one of his brothers. Wonder Woman lets him know that Damian Wayne is still alive but just barely. This being the first step in Nightwing's plan. Take Batman off the board, and tonight is Judgment Night, with Superman destroying the Capitol building, Firestorm laying waste to the land. This war was over before it even began. As the sky turns black, as the darkness creeps in, our heroes that are left standing, they look to the sky. They recognize that they are too late. The world now belongs to the vampires, and the eternal darkness has begun. Alright guys, so as we jump into this one shot, I do want to mention that Deceased will be coming back. I just saw the news for that yesterday, and I am freaking excited, because the DC versus vampires, it's been a lot of fun. The Deceased line, on the other hand, that was amazingly fun. But this story, it starts us with Damian Wayne, the vampire. This picks up sometime after the events of our last issue. This is the fallen city once known as Gotham. This is the seat of power for the vampire empire. Picking up with Martian Manhunter. He appears to be trying to evacuate some people to safety, to get them out of this city. That's where we have Damian Wayne enter the picture, lighting a fire, jumping into that fray. He goes to take on the Martian himself. Damian Wayne is the most feared bounty hunter in the entire kingdom, bringing us to the former Wayne Tower, headquarters of the Global Vampire Coalition. We have Black Mask, who is a desk clerk at this facility. Damian Wayne coming in with his latest catch, having the cloak of Martian Manhunter. He was hoping that this would buy him a ticket to meet up with Dick Grayson, to have a one-on-one with his brother, but also the Vampire King. Mr. Terrific being one of the lieutenants. He lets Damian know that there is only one way to see him. He has to capture one of the king's enemies alive. This is what takes us to an abandoned hideout where the resistance movement is laying underground. This is where we see Alfred and Martian Manhunter, with Damian Wayne making his entrance. What we see is that Damian works for the resistance. They had faked the death of Martian Manhunter, hoping that this would buy him an invitation to meet up with his brother. But having the cloak of a Justice League member, that is simply not enough. He needs to bring someone in alive and kicking. But with the Vampire Nation believing him to be dead, this gives Martian Manhunter a little bit of a step up. Now, of course, this was never his intention. In fact, he wanted the vampires to know he was helping humanity. Now, Damian is still a vampire. He's just not working for the Vampire Coalition. Alfred has been keeping a very steady supply of pig's blood. Damian Wayne is trying to help this resistance and save as many people as possible. But his true goal is to get to Richard. And to do that, he has a plan. A very stupid, a very dangerous, but a very unpredictable plan. With Alfred being on board, he makes his way to Vampire HQ, and he has Alfred inside of a duffel bag. Still alive, still kicking. This is his ticket to the Vampire King. As they get up to the throne room, what we see is a Dick Grayson that looks very different than the one that we once knew. The last time that the two brothers saw one another, Dick Grayson had killed Bruce. He killed Jason, and he turned Damian into this monster. Starting up a conversation with Alfred, what Dick is doing is testing to see if this is actually Alfred. As this conversation goes along, Dick Grayson quickly recognizes that this is not Alfred. This is in fact Martian Manhunter. As they quickly recognize their cover being blown, Damian jumps in to battle his brother. Meanwhile, Martian Manhunter is taking on the likes of Gorilla Grodd and Wonder Girl. And he is 100% out of his league, because while he may be quick, he may be fast and powerful, these individuals enhance with the abilities of being vampires. He is simply no match for them, but still, he holds his own, giving Damian just enough time to do battle with his brother. But this battle doesn't seem to be going in Damian's favor. Now, Dick Grayson, he's not really trying to fight this. More than anything, he's trying to figure out why Damian is doing this, trying to see if this is a play for power, or maybe it's just jealousy. Jealous that he wasn't picked to be at his brother's side. Jealous that Dick Grayson is Vampire King and he is not. The truth is, Damian was never jealous of him. Even before they were vampires, he knew that he was going to surpass Nightwing, that he was always going to be the better of the two of them. The plain, simple truth. Dick Grayson killed Bruce Wayne. He killed Damian's father. Having to ask the question, why? He was your father as well, why did you do it? Dick Grayson firmly believing that a stake would have been put in his chest by Bruce Wayne, that he would have never allowed Dick to amount to the power that he has gotten to now. Never allow the vampire world to rise up. And while Damian doesn't believe this to be true, with Dick letting him know that Bruce, he wasn't a very complicated man. Things are really white and black for him. There's not much gray area. And Dick Grayson, he really is right. Bruce Wayne would have done this, regardless of being his son, regardless of being the first Robin. Now, you could argue that Batman would have tried to capture him, but at the end of the day, Dick Grayson would have never gave up. He would have gave Batman no other option but to kill him. Now, while this fight has been going on, our Vampire King, he sent his men to go capture everybody that Damian has been harboring. The truth is, Dick has been onto him for months. He wanted to see how far the little Robin would go. Having Alfred and the other heroes tied up, he now has an ultimatum. He can stay here, he can try and fight Dick Grayson, or he can go rescue his friends. Our Vampire King letting it be known that you will never get another chance at this again, that this will be your last and only opportunity to bring me down. Without hesitation, Damian Wayne hightails it to the bottom of this building, cutting and burning his way through as many vampires that stand in front of him, taking out everybody, including Black Mask. He gets to the room that they are being held in, only to find that all of the heroes except for Alfred have been terminated. Starfire has turned them into nothing but ash. Alfred telling him that he never should have come. Damian jumps in to attack Starfire, taking a huge blast of energy. We see his skin start to peel off, but he is able to get that stake into her chest. With the death of Starfire, we see Damian Wayne on the ground, burnt and close to death, with Alfred unwilling to see him die. He tells him to take his blood. Damian begins to drink from Alfred, and this is when he passes out. Coming into the room is Dick Grayson, but Dick Grayson, he is not here to kill either of them. Offering immortality to Alfred, he lets him know that there is no way in hell that would ever happen. And of course, Dick Grayson, he knew that was going to be the answer, but he wanted to try. He tries apologizing to Alfred for everything that has happened. Alfred does not want to hear it though. Now, Dick Grayson, he doesn't really know why he is here. He doesn't really know what he wants done with Alfred or Damian, but he is certain of one thing. He wants to make sure that Alfred is going to take care of Damian. Of course, this is going to throw Alfred for a loop. He doesn't really understand what game the Vampire King is playing at, but he is insisting that this is no game. He is going to let both of them walk out of here. The truth is, neither of them are ever going to be a threat again. He has put contingencies in place to ensure that this is never a possibility. What he really wants to know is that Damian is going to be okay. The truth is, they have immortality. This is forever. He also knows that he needs human beings. They have to share this planet. This is their main food source. He believes that Damian Wayne might be the key to all of it, to finding some kind of balance between these two worlds. Because of all the vampires that are out there, he has something that none of them, not even the Vampire King, has. And that is compassion. Not really really sure why he is different, believing maybe this has something to do with Alfred being there when he turned. With Alfred going ahead and picking up Damian Wayne, our vampire king makes him promise that he will take care of young Robin. This is the only stipulation he has for letting them walk out, promising this to Dick Grayson. Alright gang, so as we dive into this one shot, we are picking up in a time where vampires have ruled everything. The battle was fought and humanity lost. But even with humanity losing this battle, there is still a criminal underworld. That's what picks us up with Tetch. The Hatter has been running his own schemes, doing his own stuff, trying to make some kind of money out of this. But this is when Harley Quinn and Selina kick down the door, with Harley Quinn being the queen of the underworld in Gotham City. And while the Hatter tries to make his escape, he is cut off by Grundy and Clayface. This is the muscle of Harley Quinn, and Quinn has come here today to teach Tetch a lesson. They have both been running the same game, only the Hatter, he has almost turned into a hero in these new times. While he is definitely profiting off of all of this, he is helping people escape the city. He also doesn't want Harley Quinn holding all of the power, and so Harley lets him know that she is going to be back in 1 week and she is going to ensure that she gets her cut. As she turns her back, the Hatter goes to put her down. Harley is able to turn, pull out her pistol, and put one right into him, with Tetch dying right there on the spot. Harley Quinn and her crew, they take everything that they can, and Catwoman lets her know that that probably wasn't a good idea. The truth is, the vampires let them operate. They know all about what they are doing, but as long as they are separated, disorganized, fighting against each other, they are nothing more than cattle to the vampires. Doing what Harley did, this is a consolidation of power. If an individual is to get too much power, they could be seen as a threat. It could bring much unwanted attention upon the entire crew. That's what takes us to the underground subways inside Gotham City. Harley, Grundy, and Clayface are all sitting down here having some dinner. While they are down here, they find that they are not alone. This is when we see Jim Gordon, still alive inside this apocalypse. And he has come to Harley Quinn for some help, because Jim Gordon, he has the vial of Lex Luthor's blood. As Lex Luthor was dying, he let us know that this blood, it can kill vampires. That he did something to his blood, wanting all of humanity to know that he is responsible for saving the world. The only issue is, Lex Luthor's blood has not been able to get into the right hands. Jim Gordon, he had every intention of getting this vial out of the city. That's where the Hatter was gonna come into play. Tetch was going to help him get out of the city. Now that Tetch is dead because of Harley Quinn is his only option, trying to get her to understand the gravity of this situation. This vial is the answer to saving all of humanity. And while she wants nothing to do with this, she tries to turn him down. This is where they get very rudely interrupted. We have the arrival of our vampires, having Scarecrow, Atom Smasher, and Midnight. They have been tailing Jim Gordon, and they have come to get what he has in his possession. The Vampire Nation, they have heard what he is carrying, not knowing if this is true or not, believing maybe it's just a myth. But regardless, they need to find out. With Harley Quinn trying to step between Jim Gordon and Scarecrow, things look like they are about to get heated. She does her best to try to calm this situation down. This is when we see Mr. Terrific turned into a vampire, one of the most dangerous people on the entire planet. With Harley Quinn going on her antics, going off with her mouth, Mr. Terrific, he slaps her across the face, reminding her of her place in the food chain, that she is only allowed to operate by the good graces of all of our vampires, letting her know that it is time for her to leave before she becomes food. Unable to bring Jim Gordon along with them, we see the crew leave and leave him to his demise. With Harley Quinn making her way back home, she learns that Jim Gordon had slipped the vial into her pocket, and now it is a question of what am I going to do with it? Hiding this vial vial from Selina, we see Harley Quinn, she just goes to bed, having such a long day, so much going on, she just wanted to get a little bit of rest. Sneaking into her room in the middle of the night, we have Selina going through her stuff to find the vial of blood. With Harley waking up, the two of them have a discussion about what this means, because this vial, it puts a target on all of their backs. But this thing could also save the entire world. Selina, she wants to sell it to the vampires, believing that if this thing is so sought after, it's gotta be worth a fortune. Harley Quinn, on the other hand, she is starting to get a conscience. She's starting to think that maybe saving the world wouldn't be the worst of ideas. With Harley taking the vial from her, Selina lets her know not to do anything stupid. Unfortunately, Harley Quinn, she calls up the boys and she prepares for them to get out of the city. Going underneath into the sewers, Harley Quinn comes upon Grundy, but Grundy has already been taken out. Walking up to him, his head falls right off of his shoulders. This is when she hears a little voice saying "run," being nothing more than a small little pile of dirt. This is what remains of Clayface. They knew that Harley Quinn was trying to get out of the city. They came here, set up an ambush, with Mr. Terrific and Midnight stepping out of the shadows. Mr. Terrific tells her to hand over the vial. From her jacket, she pulls a bottle of holy water that is able to spray a good distance. Getting Mr. Terrific in the eyes, she goes directly for Midnight, having a stake and driving it right through his chest. As he turns to ash, a blinded Mr. Terrific charges at Harley Quinn, goes to take a bite out of her, only to get staked in the heart. Being able to survive this encounter, she heads back home. In doing so, this is where she meets up with Catwoman, asking her where the blood is. It doesn't take long for Harley Quinn to hear the tone, understand that Selina is a vampire. Selina has been here to keep tabs on her, to ensure that they do not grow too big. A sleeper agent ready to take out Harley Quinn, all of her crew, whenever it was necessary, whenever it was needed. With Catwoman going in and attacking Harley Quinn, Harley is definitely out of her league. As she tries to hold her own, she is unable to do so. Catwoman, having her fangs out, she sinks them into the neck of Harley Quinn. This is supposed to turn her, but it doesn't. In fact, Catwoman begins to feel weird, and that is because Harley Quinn, she took that vial of blood and she injected it into her own bloodstream. With Catwoman's demise, Harley Quinn burns this place down to the ground, with her blood being the only savior for all of humanity. She makes her journey to save the world. Alright gang, so this story, it is starting us in the Swiss Alps. We have Grant Emerson, aka Damage, Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, and Daniel Cassidy, aka Blue Devil. It has been 1 year since the vampires took over everything. Since Nightwing and his whole slew of vampires have taken over the world, we have seen the most unlikely of team-ups. And these three right now, they are looking for something that is hidden away. Desperate times calling for desperate measures. What they carry with them could be the very key to saving the future. And while Blue Devil and Damage, they're not 100% sure if this is the greatest of ideas, Deathstroke believes that this is the one and only way that they can get their world back. Or at the very least, the only way that they can form a true resistance. And that is because this is the skeleton of Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. With Deathstroke having the remains of Batman, they have come to the Swiss Alps looking for a Lazarus pit. This is the last one known in existence. The vampires, they had initially targeted every single pit that they knew about. They took it off the board in the early days of the war. as they prepare to throw Batman's body into the Lazarus Pit. This is where the vampires strike. Our former soldier of God, John Paul Valley, aka Azrael, being turned into a vampire. He has been waiting here, knowing that somebody would eventually come and try to use the Lazarus Pit. As the other vampires come into the room, Azrael lets them know that this is the order of the Grey Sun. Damage being the first one to be thrown down a crack in the earth. Deathstroke wielding the sword of Angel Zazriel, unable to make it burst into flame, but it is one heck of a vampire killer. While Deathstroke is able to hold his own, we see Devil impaled through the chest. With his dying breath, he takes out this vampire. Azrael making his move on Deathstroke, but Deathstroke, he gets the upper hand, taking Azrael and throwing him into the Lazarus Pit. With Deathstroke being surrounded by vampires, we see Valley come out of that Lazarus Pit, no longer a vampire, arising completely reborn. The two of them cut their way out. And that's what takes us to a little bit later, taking us back to the underground hideout of humanity, one of the small pockets of resistance that exist on this planet. And we have Man-Bat, who is going over what happened to Valley. When John Paul was dropped into that Lazarus Pit, it had cured him of his vampirism. This is why the vampires took out every single pit that they could find, because it was a cure for the vampires. The only problem is that once somebody like John Paul goes into that pit, thereafter, that pit will be forever tainted, unable to be used again for the same effect. If they had been able to grab a small sample of it, or if they were able to collect some of it, then maybe, just maybe, it would have been viable. But with Azrael falling into the pit, it is completely useless. But with Azrael coming to, this is where Deathstroke gives him a tour of one of the hideouts of humanity. And while there are a handful of individuals that Azrael does not recognize, one person he does see is Bane. The two of them, they definitely had some history. Because of that, Mary Marvel, she comes and she steps between the two of them. But at this point, there is no ill will towards one another. This is what remains of human beings as they make their way further into this underground base. This place is referred to as Nightlight, also having a nickname of the Breadbasket. This underground human stronghold having a population of 2,700 people. It also produces 30% of the surviving humans' food, and that is all because of Captain Atom converting his energy so that he is putting out solar radiation. This helps their crops grow and everybody gets their vitamin D. Now this could really be a game changer, because we know in the main line of DC versus vampires that Supergirl, she still exists, no longer able to reach that solar radiation. Could Captain Atom possibly power up a Kryptonian? We also have individuals like Booster Gold, just a handful of heroes from all across the spectrum. But right now, the Council would like to meet Jean Paul. Meanwhile, at the front gate of Nightlight, we have Damage, who is returning back from the mission. But there is something different about him. All of his bandages coming off. This is the first time that anybody has truly seen him like this, with him being able to get just too close before they can put the UV lights onto him. He is taking them apart, making quick work of Vigilante. The vampires are sending in their Trojan horse, completely unaware of anything going on. This is what takes us to the Council. Sitting in the head chair, we have John Constantine. Not here in physical form. This is just his astral form. But there's a lot of people on this council. Individuals like Director Bones, Lead, and Midnighter. And right now, the council, they want some answers from Deathstroke, because this mission that he did in the Swiss Alps, it was not sanctioned by the council. Metahumans in this apocalyptic era, they are one of the most vital assets. He took both Damage and Blue Devil with him, and neither of them returned. Also that he could do an unsanctioned mission to try and rescue Batman. So not only did he lose 2 individuals, he brought back somebody that was just recently a vampire. This entire mission has so many concerns. First of all, they don't know if damage had been turned. They don't know what happened with Blue Devil. And they also did not resurrect Batman. Trying to defend himself, Deathstroke lets them know that there was no time to do anything, that they barely got out of there with their lives. But Miss Fleming, she comes in to let them know they are missing a very, very big point. The council, they more than likely would have approved this mission. Having Batman back, just the morale boost alone, that would have been worth the cost. So the question is, why did Deathstroke try to do this without anybody knowing? With Led chiming in and letting it be known that it is a very obvious move to have a coup. Deathstroke not being happy with the council, not believing that they are leading what remains of humanity in the correct manner. Deathstroke has always been one to try and lead the people, at least in this post-apocalyptic era. But the truth is, nobody would follow him. Batman, on the other hand, that is somebody that they would follow. Even if he did go a little bit mad being resurrected in the Lazarus Pit. Because having him alive is far greater than having him dead, especially in a world where they need somebody who is brutal and will slice through vampires. With Midnighter just losing it, he goes straight in for Deathstroke, trying to beat the crap out of him, but this is when Valley lets us know that they all need to stop fighting. The truth is, they cannot afford any kind of division. Being a vampire just recently, he is letting them know that there is no room for division. Nightwing had turned the metahumans first because he knew that was the key to taking over. The vampires running facilities that are called blood farms. These places are where the sun is allowed in. Only enough sunlight to allow algae to grow and feed their quote-unquote crops, their livestock, telling the council that if there is any chance of any kind of survival, they cannot fight amongst one another. This is when we go back over to Captain Atom, and we have what appears to be Damage wearing the mask of Vigilante, making his way up to Captain Atom. Atom is trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Damage has returned, and oddly, he is wearing the mask of Vigilante. Before Captain Atom can even do anything, Damage pulls that mask off. And he has come to have a chat, one living bomb to another, with Captain Atom currently being a freaking nuclear reactor. Nobody has time to do anything before we see him go boom. This vampire takeover, it happened so very quickly. The infection spreading from one hero to the other. Anyone that tried to stop them or got in their way, they faced death. But that still doesn't mean that our heroes didn't try putting up a fight. From Supergirl to Shazam to Black Canary, our heroes did everything they can to take down this vampire uprising, but it was already too late. Those who fought, they fell in battle. Those who ran had been hunted down. One of them being Superboy, ripped in half by Shazam and Wonder Woman. After the big battles had ended, Firestorm and the others, they burnt down all of the forests, all of the crops. The whole world was plunged into darkness. And this planet belonged to them. And now with Nightlight, one of humanity's last safe havens, falling to the vampires, we have a convoy of humans, of refugees trying to make it to a new stronghold. Not really sure where they are headed, believing that they might be chasing ghosts. We have Adam Strange, trying to get in communication with anybody in space, hoping maybe someone out there will hear them, will come to their aid. The problem is, every Green Lantern that has shown up on this planet has been slaughtered. So the idea of anybody coming here, it seems absolutely crazy. This is when we see Director Bones having some trouble ahead. Everybody dismounts from the vehicles, having cars in front of them on fire. We see Killer Frost put them all out. having Peacemaker and Adam Strange go through the cars and see if anybody else is around here. There also being one of my favorite individuals, Negative Man from Doom Patrol, as they sit here and try to push these cars off of the road. This is when they are met by Plastic Man, coming up in the shape of a cobra. This thing has fangs, but they don't know if it's a vampire. Not wanting to find out if he is one, everybody starts unloading on him. Out of left field, this is where we see Hawkgirl, who we know is a vampire. This is an ambush. Wonder Woman, Firestorm, all of these guys showing up on site, completely surrounded. Heatwave showing up, going toe-to-toe with Killer Frost. Firestorm taking Killer Frost off the board immediately. Our survivors, they are doing everything they can just to stay alive, having nowhere to fall back to. This is where we see Raven coming up and taking Heatwave on. She shuts him down immediately. Going next for Wonder Woman, that is until she gets a sneak attack from behind. Plastic Man coming in and biting her on the neck. Director Bones not having any plan for this situation. Firestorm is about to toast all of them as they get picked off one by one. Firestorm does have one question for Director Bones. Where is the city? Where is the secret city that you have all been hiding in? This is when someone shows up behind Firestorm, and we see this individual take a spear and pierce the heart of Firestorm. This is when we see him go nuclear. A giant explosion. Cars, vehicles, people, vampires, everything being thrown in all kinds of directions. This is where we see Jaina, one of our Wonder Twins. Believing that there is nothing left alive, she sees Director Bones, or at least just his skull. Knowing that that blast won't keep the vampires down for long, she needs to get out of here because she doesn't want to stick around to face Wonder Woman. Bones letting her know to take the first car, that it is an armored vehicle. As the two of them hightail it out of here, we learn that our Wonder Twin, she has been wandering for quite some time, trying to help people anywhere she can. But the thing is, she doesn't see people very often anymore. And she does hint that she lost her brother. As they pull up to the location that they need to be at, we see Killer Croc come out of the water, asking for the password. She doesn't have one. She says that Director Bones had sent her to this location. But Director Bones, he didn't make the trip. This is where we see Adam, saying that everybody had been killed in the ambush. Director Bones, he was supposed to have a protection spell on him that John Constantine put around him, was supposed to protect him from a nuclear blast. And you could say that it kept him alive for a little bit. But with Firestorm going nuclear, this is much, much bigger than a nuclear blast. Running over to the vehicle and popping open the trunk, this is where we see Kara. We have our Supergirl. Of course, our Wonder Twin, she had no idea this Supergirl was in the back. That was the whole point of this mission, of this convoy. They needed to get their most prized possession, their best weapon against these vampires. They needed to get her somewhere safe. The problem is, there is no sun. No sun, no Supergirl. But she is more than just a heavy hitter. She is a symbol of hope. This is when we see all of them, except for Killer Croc, transported to Kandor, the last Kryptonian city encapsulated inside of a bottle, buried in the mud under Hobbs River. Now, when they had brought all of their refugees here, they expected to find some natives. The problem is, Grayson's forces had already found the city before they did, and leaving the city completely empty. It was the perfect opportunity for them to find a new safe haven. As our Supergirl walks into the room of what is left of humanity's heroes, everyone from Batgirl to the Green Arrow, they are trying to devise a plan on how they are going to win this war. with Supergirl wanting to help in some kind of way. We see the discussion begin, and Oliver Queen, he knows of what is called human farms being run all over the place, mostly around Smallville, thinking that these people need saving. This is where he thinks their efforts need to go to. But Batgirl, she believes that they save the most people by taking out the leadership, by taking down Dick Grayson. She wants to go directly to Gotham and take down Nightwing, the Vampire King. Now, Dr. Fate, he believes their priorities need to be focused on clearing the ash so they can have a little bit of sunlight and power up their most powerful weapon. And what they do know is that the vampires have been sending individuals into space. And so if they can get to that place, get to that location, they could send Supergirl into space and recharge her, have her clear the smoke from the skies. She could get them daylight back. And at this point, nobody can agree on what is the best course of action. Everyone wanting to do their own thing. Babs wanting to get into Gotham. The problem is there is no way to get into Gotham. Nobody has gotten in or out in months. Though that's not entirely true. John Constantine letting us know that Harley Quinn, she most recently did escape from this place. We saw that happen in DC vs. Vampires Killers. But if they're gonna talk about being able to get in and out of Gotham, there is one person who knows, and that is Harley Quinn. The problem is, Harley Quinn is being experimented on, being captured after getting out of Gotham. We see her tied up, chained up, being poked and prodded, swearing that once she gets out of here, all of them are going to pay. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up at the House of Mystery, a place that's not really real, something that is intangible. This is a hideout for all of our magic users. John Constantine, today he is bringing two vampires along with him, most notably Damian Wayne, and we did see him in the one-shot titled Hunters. While Damian Wayne may be a vampire, he is working for humanity, and in Hunters we saw him fail to take down Nightwing, the Vampire King. There is a possibility that Hunters took place after the event of this comic, but it seems more likely that he is now working with John Constantine to try and find another way to take him down. As they go inside here, what we see are individuals like Dr. Fate and Spectre. They currently have a vampire tied up, and they are doing whatever magic they can to try and cure vampirism. As they sit here and have this guy tied up, almost every time they fail, this vampire exploding and blood shooting in all directions. But John Constantine had come here to talk to Dr. Fate, taking something from him. We don't really know what it is that he has, but picking up just a little bit later, what we see is John Constantine and Green Arrow having a conversation. Canary walking in on this conversation, wanting to know what is going on, but Constantine not wanting to get in the middle of any of this going on. He excuses himself, and Canary and Green Arrow have a talk. Before he even gets the opportunity to lie, Canary lets him know that she doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want to hear him talk because she knows that he is not going to tell the truth. But what she does know is that Ollie is leaving. Canary and the Birds of Prey, they are headed off to Gotham. They are going to go find Nightwing, and they are going to put a stake into his chest. Oliver, on the other hand, he wants to go take care of the blood farms. And though he wants her by his side, right now they are on two different missions. He wants to go save people in cages, and she wants to bring an end to the Vampire King. Oliver believes that this isn't the best plan they can do, because if they remove Nightwing from the throne, he knows that once Nightwing is actually removed, someone like Martian Manhunter could very easily take up that spot. And so the two of them, they spend one night together before they go on their last missions. taking us back over to the House of Mystery. All of our magic users, they get a knock on the front door, not really sure who this might be, believing that maybe it's Constantine. When they open up the door, who they find is Jason Blood the Vampire. Along with him, Raven and some other individuals. They have come to ensure that everybody forgets something. This is where we have Barbara Gordon. She is currently having a dream, nightmare, not sure what you call it, because we have Nightwing, who is currently a vampire eating from the neck of somebody else. Batgirl comes in with a stake to put it into his chest, but instead the two of them embrace one another. They start kissing, and we see her turned into a vampire, waking up from this in a quick hurry. This has been running through her mind constantly. The man that she loved more than anybody is the Vampire King. This dream is just a symbolism of the battle that she is constantly waging in her own head between love and duty. But she was woken up because we have an individual who is in her room, burnt to an absolute crisp. This is John Constantine. The problem is, John Constantine has no memory right now. No memory of what happened to him or where he has been. He knows that he went somewhere and that there was a fire. He knows that something has been erased. He remembers flames. He remembers screaming. He tried to help them, and the more it burned, the less he knew. He doesn't even know how he got back. But whatever he was doing, they burned the idea out of his mind. He tells her, though, to go to Gotham, make Nightwing pay for taking all of this from them. Now, this is where we see Batgirl and Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn has been used as an experiment, more or less. Hugo Strange has been working on some kind of vampire cure. Harley Quinn, her blood is the only cure that they know of, the only thing that can kill vampires. We saw this in DC vs. Vampires Killers. Lex Luthor, his blood was the last source of blood that could kill vampires. Believing that he made it to save humanity, he had also died. Harley Quinn injecting herself with this blood, she became humanity's last hope. But Batgirl has come here for Harley Quinn. Hugo Strange not wanting to give her up, this gets physical. Hugo Strange having Frankenstein on his side. Frankenstein believing that he is doing the honorable and noble thing by trying to save humanity. Batgirl tries to explain to Frankenstein that you guys have kidnapped a girl and are experimenting on her against her own will. Harley Quinn being able to get free, smashing a chair over Hugo Strange. She then proceeds to stomp his freaking face in, Batgirl pulling her away. A little bit later, we see Canary, Harley Quinn, and Batgirl. Joining the forces with them is Frankenstein, recognizing that their goal, their mission is truly the noble mission, that he will fight by their side, offering up his sword as service. Harley Quinn is one of the few individuals that knows how to sneak into Gotham. She was able to escape, and so the birds of prey together are gonna go take down the Vampire King. Picking us up on the ocean, headed to Australia, we have Steel and Supergirl. Supergirl being one of the last Kryptonians that has not been turned or killed. They are headed up to Australia so they can really try to find the sun. The vampires, they have been doing missions up into space. If they can get her into space, into the upper atmosphere where the sun is shining, she can blow all of the clouds away and save humanity. As they make their way across the ocean, they are quickly overrun. The creatures of the sea are making their arrival, completely outnumbered. Black Manta with them on their side. They are fighting them off the best they can, but we see Supergirl grab prisoner, a knife to her throat. Believing this might be the end of Supergirl, this is when something happens. This sea dweller is ripped apart from the inside, because that is where our Wonder Twin comes into play. Now having the power of both her and her brother. Not really sure how or why this happened. Ever since her brother's death, she has had the power to form of water and the form of animal. She had been following behind them on the boat the entire time, swearing to protect Supergirl at all costs. She had been trailing behind them, and as soon as she saw them coming up from the ocean, she let one of them swallow her while she was in her water form. With Supergirl welcoming her aboard, we have our heroes out on their missions. 3 teams, 3 different objectives. The last-ditch effort for all of humanity now rests in their hands. Alright, so we are picking up with Deathstroke giving some narration, letting us know that John Constantine has died. Jimmy Olsen has died. And while Deathstroke wasn't really fond of these 2 individuals, nonetheless, these 2 were human. In a world where humanity is dwindling, 2 people is a big deal. But before John Constantine had been taken out of the equation, he had let Booster Gold know where to find the last Lazarus Pit, the only cure for vampirism that they know of, putting all their chips into one basket, believing that the Weather Wizard is their only option, being able to clear the ash from the sky. But the only problem is that the Weather Wizard is in fact a vampire, which means they need to take him to the Lazarus Pit, cure him of his vampirism before they can get him to work on their side. And Deathstroke, he doesn't necessarily believe that they are going to complete their mission, but at this point, they have no other options. As Mary Marvel flies up in the sky above them, what she is able to see is Swamp Thing. Not sure if it is Alec or the other guy, as she says. This appears to be what the people at the blood farm are feeding off of, with Midnighter and all the others sitting here in this little glimpse of sunlight. This is the first time a lot of them have seen sunlight in over a year. But as they have this conversation, we have a vampire come up and almost take them out. Lucky for them, that is when Batwoman steps into play. As the vampire calls her a traitor, she decapitates him, takes the head, and throws it at another vampire, just absolutely tearing these guys apart. That is when Deathstroke, Midnighter, and Azrael, all of them go in to attack Batwoman, because she is a vampire. Not really sure if this is some kind of ruse, what she is doing killing these other vampires, but they don't trust her. She tries to let them know that you need to stop, because Damian Wayne is the one that sent her. The truth is, Damian Wayne had found her on a rooftop feeding, being nothing more than a fraction of what she once was. The monster, the vampirism, almost completely taken over. Instead of Damian Wayne killing Batwoman, he took her back, trained her, made her learn how to control the hunger. And while Deathstroke and all the others are still very skeptical, Azrael lets it know that he can confirm this. He once was a vampire, and he had heard that there was a hit on Batwoman. But the truth is, Batwoman has been here for days. She didn't come for them. She has been scouting out and doing a mission for Damian Wayne. That mission is to get Starfire. Damian believing that if Starfire were on their side, if they can rescue her, they might be able to turn the tides of this battle. That is where we pick up with Starfire and the Baron. We learn that Starfire's powers are hugely dampened, wearing some kind of bracelets that Baron Cinder had created for her. The Baron lets her know that he does hate the idea of having to put these restraints on her, believing that once upon a time he had been a good man, but now compelled by his new nature, he is hoping the Starfire may be able to help him, because with her powers, he can be fed clean cosmic radiation, which means no ultraviolet to scorch his skin. He wouldn't have to use Luthor's armor to keep his body together any longer, even telling her that he will leave all of this behind if she is to feed him Starlight, that he could be a good man again. But for Starfire, even if she believed Baron, the man that she once knew, he wouldn't want to live another second knowing what they have done. With Deathstroke preparing the team, saying that the forces are overwhelming, which means they are going to have to split into 2 different teams. One team is going to cause a big enough distraction that they can go and get Starfire. One team is going for Starfire, the other team is going for Weather Wizard. The team that is going for Starfire is Batwoman, Bane, Azrael, and Deathstroke as they make their way into this very haunted-like amusement park. Dispatching any sentries along the way, we have Bane who is breaking down this door, and they quickly recognize that they are going to be fighting their way through this entire facility. They are going to use brute force, floor by floor, as they cut their way through vampires. They finally make their way to Starfire's room, but Starfire doesn't seem surprised or even happy that someone here is here to rescue her. Welcoming him in, Bane goes to holler at the others, letting them know that he has found her. But when he turns his back, this is where we see the fangs come out. Now, on another floor, this is where we have Knight Rider, now being able to be his true self, being able to live his vampire dreams. He is able to do some damage to Deathstroke. That, of course, is until we see Starfire come up and pour hot wax down his back, distracting him long enough. That is when Deathstroke is able to just take his heart straight out of his body. This is when she fills them in on everything that has been going on. That Baron has been trying everything, from trying to turn her into a vampire, which her biology, it doesn't allow for vampirism to take effect. Which is kind of funny considering Superman Kryptonians, they can get turned, but not her. But he tried to break her down with kindness, letting them know that they gotta get out of here and they have to do it now. That is when Batwoman and Starfire, they take off, also letting them know that they need to make a huge distraction on their way out. And so taking us back over to Bane, what he believed had been Starfire was in fact Mirage, the illusion caster and now also a vampire, telling Bane that all he has to do is submit and she will make the pain stop that he is currently feeling. This is when Deadman comes out of Bane, letting her know that this body is closed for business, that he is in charge, and there is no way she is getting Bane's body. John Constantine sending him along with the team as a top secret insurance policy, hoping that Mirage is just going to go away and leave Bane to die in peace. Of course, she doesn't do that. She cuts all of his hoses. But at the same time, this is when Azrael steps into the room and he puts her down, trying to figure out what just happened to Bane. This is when Mirage is letting him know that John Paul, he is the prodigal son. That voice in his head, Grayson knows everything about it. That he can make it go quiet forever. That all you have to do is come back to the fold. Come back and join the vampires, because he wants Azrael as his right hand. The Baron, recognizing this situation is now ongoing, him and Billy, aka Shazam, they are headed down to face off against Deathstroke and their last-ditch effort to save humanity. Now, this is where we jump into the origin of King Nightwing. This is the part 2 and brings it all to a close, at least for the Nightwing story and his origin of becoming a vampire. You see, Nightwing came down here in a hopes that he would be able to broker some kind of deal between vampire factions. They want Nightwing to kill Mary, Queen of the Vampires. Of course, Nightwing is unwilling to do so, that whatever differences or issues that they have, they can work it out, they can talk it out with one another. But they even go on to tell Nightwing that they are better than humans, that they want to be the superior, and as long as Mary is in charge, that is not going to happen. This is when Nightwing quickly recognizes that he is in a trap, resorting to blackmail, traps, and brute force. He recognizes that these guys are truly Bloodhaven, but letting them know that this meeting is over, he trips one of them and he goes to try and make his escape, telling his sister that he would take that waffle now, but they gotta get out of here. This is when he sees that Melinda is working with the vampires. And the only thing Nightwing has to say to her is, "I'm sorry." Because of course, how else would they have known about me? That he doesn't want this fight. He doesn't want to have to hurt his own sister. But it's not his sister that he has to worry about. It is the dozens and dozens of vampires that are descending on him right now. Grabbing hold of a torch, he breaks it in half, having 2 wooden stakes in both hands. We see Nightwing start putting down some vamps down here in this darkness, with vampires trying to take him down. He recognizes he has nothing. Not Bruce, not the Titans, not Barbara. believing that this is what made him hesitate, blocking out any fear, stopping him from thinking too much. One question over everything: who would feed his dog? As the swarm of vampires descend onto him, jumping and piling on, eventually, it is not even possible to see Dick Grayson anymore. That is, until his sister lets it be known that that is enough. Being able to break free in that moment, taking that stake, he had the opportunity to kill his sister, but he stops. He hesitates, unable to do so, tears running down his eyes. That is when they go in for the bite. The teeth sink into Nightwing's neck, but that doesn't stop Nightwing from killing the vampire that turned him. He killed Pandora, the oldest and the strongest of the vampires. He says that he had no choice, that he was too late, that he couldn't stop it from happening, and now he asks, where is Mary? Alright gang, so we are diving into this issue and we are picking up with Mary Marvel, Booster Gold, and Midnighter. Their teammates have made the distraction. Baron Cinder and his lieutenants, they are headed off chasing after Starfire. While Baron Cinder is away, this gives Midnighter and the others the opportunity to find the Weather Wizard. As they make their way through the facility, what we see is dozens and dozens of almost egg sacs. If you've ever watched The Matrix, this is exactly what it looks like. Except in this scenario, you could consider this a blood bank. They are taking the human's blood. This is how they are staying alive. This is how vampires can sustain themselves without needing humanity to be free. As they sit here in disbelief, seeing all of these humans used as cattle, this is when Vic Sage arrives, aka The Question. And though The Question, he comes up to them and he's acting crazy, asking if they have seen Vic. And while Midnighter, he tries to play it right. He tries to let him know that we saw Vic out in the swamp. Now, The Question, he lets it be known that the Baron told him to stay here and guard the store. This is when we see the bloody smile appear on his mask. Not really dead, not really alive. Midnighter letting us know that he is having a real hard time being able to see him. Not that he can't see him visually, he cannot factor him into a fight simulation. Every calculation, the tactical computer inside Midnighter's brain, it cannot account for truly irrational characters. He is the ultimate random variable, a true chaos agent. But he is not here alone. We have the Arkham Knight, the Atomic Knight, the Shining Knight, and Prometheus. All of them vampires, all of them lieutenants to Baron Cinder, and all of them ready to kill Midnighter and our heroes. Inside the mind of Azrael, he is struggling, not really understanding what is going on with him. Deathstroke smacks him in the face and it brings him back to consciousness, with Deathstroke letting him know that the distraction has happened. It is time for them to make their move because everything is in motion right this moment. Now we have Starfire. She is making a mad dash for the sunlight, needing to be able to charge up, not having the sun in months, with Batwoman holding on as tight as she can. Not too far behind them, we have Baron Cinder and we have Billy, with Batwoman being a vampire. Starfire lets her know that you're probably going to get a little bit singed. She's going to do all she can to ensure that she doesn't burn, but it's about to be a bumpy ride. Meanwhile, Mary Marvel and all of our heroes are fighting against the lieutenants of Baron Cinder, as Mary Marvel goes to give a devastating blow to the Shining Knight. She learns that her punch, it does almost nothing to him. His powers also derived from Eldritch in nature. So was his armor, gifted to him by Merlin himself. Her blows may not be able to do anything to him, but her lightning, she lets loose and he turns into a fried skeleton. One by one, the lieutenants of Baron Cinder begin to fall, from the Shining Knight to the Arkham Knight, using all the humans machines inside of these pods as distractions to throw our heroes off. The pods go falling to the ground, and Booster Gold, all of them, they do their best to try to save them. That is where Prometheus and Mary Marvel go face to face. With Mary Marvel getting stuck in a trance, he makes her say those words. The words that make her transform. She yells Shazam as Starfire is careening towards the sunlight. Baron Cinder knows that she means to use this against them. He wants his clean light, even if he has to cut it out of her. As Starfire and Batwoman get closer and closer to the sunlight, Starfire drops her down into the water, down into the depths, down into the darkness, a place that she will be safe away from the sunlight's burn. Finally reaching it, finally being able to make it to the sun, she basks in all of its light, absorbing as much as she can before Baron Cinder and Billy can make their way to her. The blinding light begins to hit them. Meanwhile, Mary Marvel has transformed into just Mary, and we finally learn the truth. Mary had been bit. She was unable to transform before she got bit. Wonder Woman being the one responsible for this. Before the hunger was able to consume her entirely, she was able to transform an uninfected, immortal body, a place where she was able to hide out, hide away from her vampirism. But when she is just Mary, she is a vampire, with Midnighter telling her it is time to snap out of it, that they need her in this fight. We see Midnighter versus Prometheus. Now Prometheus, he has a combat computer built into his helmet. Midnighter, he has it built into his brain. As the two of them calculate their combat computers doing the simulation, we see that Prometheus loses and his head explodes, telling Mary Marvel it is time for her to transform back into what they need. This is when Midnighter gets a hand right through the chest. The question took out Midnighter. Mary Marvel shouting Shazam. She puts the question into the ground, dragging his body over to Booster Gold. Booster Gold suffering a very heavy wound. This is when Mary Marvel busts through the floor, and she is greeted by Weather Wizard as Midnighter does what he can to transfuse blood into Booster Gold to keep him alive. We have the lightning battle between Weather Wizard and Mary Marvel, with Weather Wizard letting her know, do you really think that the Baron is just going to let me go? He will hunt you to the ends of the earth. But Mary Marvel not concerned with this, because Weather Wizard is going to be on their side. This is when he is decapitated. Azrael cut his head off. Mary Marvel very confused because this wasn't the plan. This is not how it was supposed to go. But the system, the programming inside of Jean-Paul's head, it was going to erase him completely. They said that they would turn him back into a vampire if he helped them out, apologizing to them. But he has betrayed them. Weather Wizard was their one and only hope. At least they believe so. And now he is dead. That is where we pick up with Baron Cinder and Billy wanting to yell Shazam. Baron Cinder tells him not to not hide behind his weakest self, because boys run away from the hurt. Men like them, men that are supermen, they embrace the pain. This is where we see that Baron Cinder is Superman. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are starting off in Smallville. We have a small group of vampires who are currently coming and hunting down somebody, being just moments behind him before they get the opportunity to really track him down. We see the green arrows come flying in, giant explosions of gasoline. This barn is going up into absolute flames. These vampires never had a chance of making it out alive. And while one of them does slowly be able to crawl out, he is greeted by Green Arrow. He had mixed holy water and gasoline, a very deadly combination for any vampire. And at first, he does consider letting this vampire go, letting this vampire live so that he can send a message. But Green Arrow, he decides otherwise. He has some other plans, and he is going to deliver this message by himself. That is what takes us over to the Coral Sea. We have Black Manta, we have Steel, Supergirl, and our Wonder Twin. As they barely made it out of these waters, just on the horizon, they can see Australia. In this small moment, the one of happiness and hope, not believing that they would even make it to this spot. Now that they have, there is a sigh of relief that goes over the both of them. The problem is, this is when the waters come alive, and that is because the Atlanteans are not done with them. And so while Steel rushes over to wake the others, we are taken to the outskirts of Gotham City, having individuals like Power Girl up in the sky patrolling. They are patrolling for the Vampire Nation. Gotham being the new hub, the new center of the entire world. It is the most protected city on the planet. And right now, Harley Quinn is trying to show them how to get inside. The only problem, all of the tunnels, all of the passageways, they have been shut down. It has been months since Harley Quinn has found her way to this location. And in that time, all of the vampires, they have located these little getaways, these little underground railroads. This means they have one option. They have to go across the water. They have to be out in the open. They have to risk everything if they plan to get to Nightwing. Taking us over to Smallville at our blood farm, we have two vampires that are currently patrolling around the fence line. As they do, we have a young gentleman come up to them, let them know that they need food. The only problem, there has been a delay in the shipment of more or less moss that they get in. The only substance that has been keeping them alive, it comes from the Swamp Thing. Now, as this individual has this argument with these vampire guards, something is sneaking up on them. That something just so happens to be Green Arrow. Taking down these vampires very quickly. The man on the other side of the fence had helped him in taking down these vampires. And so Green Arrow going up to have a conversation with him, we learn that his name is Cole Cash, also known as Grifter. Now, at first, Grifter believes that Green Arrow is here to save the day, that this is some kind of rescue attempt. But the truth is, he is here for the big man. He is here for the Lord, the man in charge, letting Cole Cash know that he is going to return when the big man does come out. Because while he would love to help these people, he wants to take down the man in charge. Taking us to just off the coast of Australia, we have Steel and all of our heroes fighting for their lives. They are currently going against the Atlantean Royal Guard. Much tougher, much stronger, but there is much more meaning to this, because if the Royal Guard has arrived, that means he has arrived. He, of course, is Aquaman, as they are immediately hit with thousands of gallons of water. They do their best to hold on, and then Black Manta steps into play. This is when Arthur lets it be known that this Black Manta is not in fact the adversary that Arthur has had over all these years. He knows because Black Manta had died a coward's death, at least according to Arthur, telling Black Manta to reveal yourself. Show me who you are and why you stand against me. Removing the helmets, we see that this is Mira. Everybody's shocked, even Arthur himself. But Mira lets him know that you don't talk to me, calling him nothing more than a creature, because she knows the man that she once knew, he is gone, and nothing more than a monster stands before her. Jumping back over to Smallville, we see the assault begin. As the gates open up, we see vampire after vampire come pouring out of the gateway. Green Arrow ready, locked and loaded. He is shooting every single arrow that he has. As one by one, these vampires turn into ash. This is when we see Loose Cannon, this giant monstrosity turned vampire. He thinks he may be a match for Green Arrow until Loose Cannon, he gets two arrows directly into his eyes, blinded and dropping down to the ground. Before he can get the opportunity to give that deathly blow to Loose Cannon, this is where the big man arrives. That, of course, is Hawkman. Hawkman grabbing hold of Green Arrow, lifting him up into the air. We have to assume that Green Arrow had some kind of plan as he did a full-on assault of the blood farm. Now, taking us back over to the ocean, Mira and Arthur, they find themselves in the depths. Not really sure what to do, where to go next. Almost assured that Aquaman is going to kill Mira. They have to get out of here. they have to make their way to land. Unfortunately, this is when we see Arthur come out of the water, letting Supergirl know that she looks weak, she looks powerless, that if she were to simply join like Kal-El did, she could have all her power back, as our Wonder Twin takes the form of a water bear. Probably one of the most idiotic things that you could possibly do in this situation. You attack Aquaman in the form of water. He is the Lord of all water. With the flick of his wrist, we see our Wonder Twin turned into pink mist. This is when Arthur takes a hammer directly to his face. Steel taking the biggest swing that he possibly can, making Arthur bleed. And while Steel may be strong, he is not strong enough to take on Aquaman. But this was nothing more than a distraction. That is when Mira comes back out of the water. We see a giant explosion. Everybody is shot in opposite directions, with Supergirl being dragged under, ropes attached to her hip, unable to break free, unable to get loose. Our Kryptonian, she falls to the bottom. Meanwhile, we have the birds of prey getting ready to make their journey across the water, formulating their plan, getting ready to put it into action. That is until we have the vampire hunter show up, the one and only Damian Wayne, letting them know that he can get them into Gotham. And though he may be a vampire, right now he is their last, best, and only shot at taking down the King Vampire. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, it is going to jump us around just a little bit. We are following all three stories, but it starts us off right outside of Gotham City. We pick up with our birds of prey, accompanied by Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne being a vampire, but he is one of the few individuals that the vampires have no control of. And we're gonna talk a little bit more on that once we get to the end of the comic, because I really do want to discuss this idea that there are some heroes that turn against their vampirism, while others, they join the forces of the Vampire King. But as our heroes begin to reach Gotham City, up in the sky, this is where they see the front line. From Black Adam to Firestorm, these are the individuals that keep control and make sure nobody comes into the city without them knowing. This is when Black Adam spots them. Our heroes wanting to do something, but Damian Wayne lets them know that we have to do nothing, that if you just wait, they will all have the distraction that they need. With Black Adam coming in like a ball of fire just before Black Adam gets too close to them. This is when Damian Wayne radios to Batwoman. We see Black Adam fall out of the sky, no one understanding what actually is taking place. That is, of course, until they look up and they see Starfire. We had seen her just recently rescued from Florida. If you want to check that out, it is DC Comics versus Vampires All Out War. Damian Wayne had her brought here, believing that she would be perfect. Not only that, this would distract the Vampire King. Damian knew that this would infuriate Dick Grayson. Because of this, Dick Grayson, he sends everybody, realizing how important she is, knowing that her power alone could very easily turn the tides of this battle. We see Starfire hightail it out of here, having to recharge, needing to get to the sunlight. This gives our heroes the opportunity to sneak into Gotham City. This gives them the opportunity to kill a king. Now that is when we jump over to Smallville, what is looking like more or less a concentration camp, a place where humans are rounded up and they are kept here. The warden being none other than Hawkman, and we have the Green Arrow just recently captured. As Hawkman is escorting him to his cell, the two of them have a conversation, with Hawkman letting Ollie know that the war is over, that his side, they lost a long time ago. Now Oliver Queen would say that the war isn't over yet. As long as there are people that are still willing to take up arms against them, the war will continue on. And Hawkman does believe that it was real good reason for him to come here and try to kill him. Not because he was going to be successful, but because Oliver Queen is a leader. Unlike all the other heroes, Oliver Queen never saw himself above the others, above humanity. Oliver Queen was of the people, and more than ever, Hawkman wants him to lead them now. Be the human ambassador. Tell all the humans to lay down their arms. truce. And of course, this is something that Oliver simply isn't going to do. He is not going to tell people to stop fighting the good fight. But he did come here not to necessarily kill Hawkman, but give him the opportunity to repent, to turn his back on these monsters, to free these innocent people, and to save whatever is left of Carter Hall. If he does not do this, then Green Arrow will in fact take him out. Of course, Hawkman telling him that he is a fool, that there is no way you could ever be a true threat to me. Leaving him in this cell, Oliver Queen can't help but think this is the same thing that Hal Jordan had said to him. As we jump back over to the sewers of Gotham, with Damian Wayne burning the boat that they had gotten in here with. Harley Quinn a little bit confused, wondering why he is doing this. He is saying this is to cover their tracks. Moreover, once you get inside of Gotham, there's not really any leaving, especially this time. Now, as Dinah gets a little bit infuriated with Damian Wayne doing all of this, this is where we have the arrival of Punchline, with Punchline being a vampire herself. She is not working with Damian Wayne, but she also doesn't work for Nightwing. She runs the black market inside of Gotham. She has taken over the job that Selina and Harley Quinn had done together. Of course, Harley Quinn letting her know that you don't have an original thought in your entire body, but they are able to bring Harley Quinn back in, relax her a little bit, and try to figure out what is going on here. And even though she doesn't necessarily work for Nightwing, that does not mean that Punchline is out here to help them. That is what takes us to the shores of Australia, as Steel carries Supergirl to the shoreline. It appears that she has taken in too much water. As Steel begins to do CPR, Supergirl coughs up all of this water. As she comes to recognizing where they are, Steel lets her know that the last time they saw Mira, she had been fighting against Aquaman. And when it comes to our Wonder Twin, there has been no sign of her, or at least so they thought. It appeared that Aquaman had just absolutely obliterated her. The truth is, she has been hiding inside of Supergirl. Our Wonder Twin had taken the form of water, so when Supergirl went down into the depths, in her water form, she went into the lungs of Supergirl, transferring any little oxygen that she could to Supergirl to keep her alive, while also keeping out all the salt water. And now they are on a mission to discover whatever it is they were sent here to look for. Hopping back over to Gotham City, we have the Birds of Prey, who are now in the custody of Punchline. Because she doesn't plan to keep them here indefinitely, she just wants to figure out what she is going to do with them. Because her problem is that she is not really sure what she wants to do. They may have made deals in the past, but right now the Birds of Prey, Damian Wayne, they have nothing to offer her. They have nothing to bargain with. The only real value that they have right now is that she could turn them into the Vampire King. That, of course, is unless a deal can be struck, letting them know that she won't stand in the way if they go and try to kill the Vampire King. But before they do that, they have to kill somebody for her. Not a vampire, but a human. Of course, Barbara Gordon wants nothing to do with this, saying that they are not murderers, thinking maybe if you won't do this, maybe someone in your little Suicide Squad will. As we hop back over to Smallville, picking up with Green Arrow and Cole. Cole is a little bit confused because this was supposed to be some kind of rescue mission, or at least that is what Cole was thinking when Green Arrow showed up, with Green Arrow pulling out a necklace, trying to figure out if there is any water around here. The problem is that there's not really any water. It has been very scarce ever since the clouds had taken over the sky. When they messed up the weather patterns, that means that the rain, everything else was also thrown into chaos. But they need a little bit of moisture, asking Cole to go ahead and pee on this necklace that he has. This pennant that Dr. Fate had risked his life to get to him. We have Cole that is getting a little bit frustrated with Green Arrow, letting him know that you could have stopped all of this. You could have rescued everybody. Instead, you were too focused on going to Hawkman and giving him the opportunity to repent. But what Cole didn't know is that pennant, when it was given just a little bit of moisture, we see the green grow. And from that growth, we have Swamp Thing. This is how he is going to rescue everybody. Hopping back over to Gotham City, with Harley Quinn and all the others being imprisoned. Harley Quinn took took her clothes off. She made a distraction, made it look like she was laying in bed. Butt freaking naked, she smashes this vampire's head into a wall and she makes her escape. As she runs off to make her escape, this is when she runs into Barbara and Punchline. Not really sure what is going on, asking if all the others are also out and she's the only one locked up. Punchline had just sent for all of them to be released. That includes Harley Quinn. That is why that guard even came to her cell. And they are all being released because Damian Wayne did what needed to be done. He killed the person that Punchline wanted taken out. That person just so happens to be Harvey Dent. This is what buys their freedom, being able to get out into the city. Damian Wayne is now asking, what is your plan? What do we do from here? Of course, Barbara, she is unwilling to let Damian in on everything that is going on. The truth is, he is a vampire and she does not trust him. Even if he did just free them, Damian went and murdered Harvey Dent to do so. And while Damian Wayne, he puts on a great facade. He is the vampire that is a vampire hunter. The truth is, she knows exactly why he left Gotham. Damian Wayne couldn't stop Dick Grayson. He had the shot. He couldn't stop him. Even when he killed Tim, when he killed Jason, when he killed Bruce, Damian did nothing. And of course, the other reason, he is a freaking vampire. This is somebody that she will not trust, but she does have a plan. She has a trick up her sleeve. This is where she exposes the giant bat lantern, sending that spotlight up into the sky. This is the signal. Across Gotham City, everybody can see this. From Signal to the Huntress. But this isn't no ordinary light. This is UV light, which means any vampire that steps in its path, they are almost instantly turned into ash. But this is just the beginning of the plan. With this one signal going up, we see more pop up. One by one, we have bat signals that are going up all over Gotham City. Damian Wayne wondering how she was able to implement such a very thought out plan. But Dick Grayson has one weakness. He is too proud to have his food served to him from those blood farms. He wants to be the purest of vampires. And so he kept Gotham a free city where humans can live their lives. But he did this so that he could hunt them. And so what remains of the Bat family, those humans that they really are just surviving in Gotham City, they have been waiting for this moment. They have been hiding this entire time. They have been waiting for the signal. With these bat lights going up, it is time for what remains of the Bat family to go on the hunt. Though they may have lost the element of surprise, Barbara knows that Dick Grayson always knew she would return. Dick Grayson has been going into her dreams trying to lure her back to Gotham City. This was an inevitable confrontation. He has been expecting her. But now Dick Grayson knows that Barbara Gordon did not come alone, as all the lights, they hit that one tower where Dick Grayson has been lording over the city. And this is where the final battle begins. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up and our survivors are in a very bad place. And not physically, but mentally. Physically, out in the world, it is still the same way it has always been. But right now, this team is truly feeling it. That is because of Azrael. 24 hours ago, they found themselves in a very tight spot. They were betrayed by Azrael. The brainwashing stuff that the Order did to him as a kid, it was threatening to take complete control to punish him for letting himself be turned. And so the vampires, they offered him a deal. Sabotage the mission by taking out Weather Wizard. And for this, he will get turned all over again. This would silence that programming once and for all. Taking this deal, as the vampires begin to swarm in, this looked like the end of all survivors. That is until Azrael decided at the very last moment he was going to give them the opportunity to escape. His whole demeanor changed. Even taking on a Brooklyn accent, he gives them the opportunity to escape. By the skin of their teeth, they were able to get out of there. They were able to get out of Florida before Baron Cinder had found them. And that is what takes us to the Flash Museum in Central City. As they go inside, they find that it is nothing but abandoned. But Barry Allen's Speed Force generators, they are still working and operational. And while while Midnighter does play with the idea of using the cosmic treadmill to go back in time and change all of this, with Deathstroke letting it be known that that is something we aren't going to do. We are where we are and we have to deal with it. Going into the Rogue Gallery, this is when they have Mary Marvel break open the floor, and this reveals a Lazarus pit, sewing Weather Wizard's neck back onto his body. They're a little bit concerned on what this is going to do, because Weather Wizard was a vampire. He died a vampire. They don't know what this is going to do or how this is going to work, thinking that maybe, just maybe, he will come back as human, dropping him down into the pit. It takes a few moments, but we see him rise up, head barely attached, and he did not turn back into a human, immediately going after Deathstroke and biting him on the neck. As Mary Marvel and Midnighter do what they can to try and pull him off, we see Mary Marvel grab hold of the vampire head and snap it clean off. This is when Mary Marvel has an idea. Using Azrael's sword, we see it activated, going to use it to cauterize the neck of Deathstroke. He has to wonder how she got it to work, letting him know that it is an angel sword. She simply had to have faith, and while she is not the religious type, she does have faith in Deathstroke, with our survivors recognizing that it is snowing. It is snowing very fresh snow, and it is also very clean snow, which means there is no way that this came from the sky, as they think about what they are going to do next, because Weather Wizard and the Lazarus Pit, that was their last shot. This is when we have the arrival of Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, aka Billy, has shown up on scene, tracking them down from all the way in Florida. Mary Marvel lets them know that they need to get out of here, that this is a family matter, and she is going to take care of it. Deathstroke unwilling to leave her behind. He knows what this fight means. He knows the odds of Mary Marvel making it out alive, but even if he wanted to help, he is currently wounded from the vampire bite. He needs time to heal. This is where we see the two titans clash together, with Captain Marvel dealing the first blow. With the Battle of the Gods underway, Deathstroke, Booster Gold, and Midnighter make their escape, and they are following the cold, knowing that it's not natural, trying to figure out where this is coming from. They go to investigate, hoping that maybe this will give them some answers, maybe just a way out of here. Meanwhile, Mary Marvel is laying down the hate. These two are going blow for blow, but even though Mary is able to hold her own temporarily, eventually Billy gets the upper hand. With her bleeding on the ground, Captain Marvel lets her know that there is no way she can win. Everything that she is, it all flows from him. Also letting her know that it doesn't have to be this way. The vampirism already has her weaker half. All she has to do is finish the journey, warning her that whatever she is about to try, not to do it, that he is stronger and he will win. This is where we see Marvel go in, grab hold of him, apologizing to Billy, and then yelling, Shazam! We see the thunderbolt come down, the thundering boom, both of them being shot back in opposite directions. And that is where we see Billy in the darkness, calling out to anybody that might listen, hearing the voice of Mary, telling Billy that she knows that he is confused, but the two of them, they will get through this together. As Billy and Mary hug one another, we see the fangs come out of Mary, and she goes to bite him on the neck. Picking back up with Deathstroke, Midnighter, and Booster Gold, what they have found is Captain Cold. Them not fully understanding what they are looking at is as if Captain Cold had put himself into this stasis, freezing himself in this very spot. Maybe his hopes was to outlive whatever all of this is. The vampires not even worrying about him, not messing with him in the slightest bit. That's when they turn around to find Mary, saying that she has done something bad and that she needs them to do something. She needs them to kill her. Alright gang, so as we dive into the final issue, we are getting a small little story. When Big Red went missing, when Superman disappeared, absolute chaos ensued. People shooting guns in the air, having the time of their life, stealing, taking, killing, doing whatever it is they please. But then Captain Cold got bit. He knew he was turning into a vampire. He knew that he couldn't stop the process. He could already feel what he was becoming. He could hear it screaming at the door. And so he came to this location. He turned his cold gun on himself and he froze himself until something happened, until all of this passed over, hoping that they found a cure. Unfortunately, there is no cure, which means Captain Cold, he is going to continue on his process of transformation, with Booster Gold, Midnighter, and Deathstroke all here. Right now, Mary Marvel is in a very bad state, unwilling to see herself as a monster. She killed Billy, not as Mary Marvel, but as a vampire. And the problem is, that hunger is still there. She does her best to fight off the urge to really go out and kill everybody. And while Slade tells her that she should probably try to turn back to Mary Marvel, she is too afraid that if she does turn, because she crossed that line, she is afraid that Mary Marvel could be a weapon of absolute devastation. This is when, from the shadows, we have John Constantine, astro projecting himself to their location. Everybody thought he had died, apologizing for not checking in sooner, but he has been dealing with his own things. He has been orchestrating everything going on, making an absolute wonderful Lord of the Rings reference, saying that he is Gandalf the Git, returning to them now at the turn of the tide. But he does ask, where is Weather Wizard? Because John Constantine doesn't know that they failed at saving Weather Wizard. Meanwhile, at the Flash Museum, we have Baron Cinder, who is looking for Billy. He finds Billy, but it is already too late for him. Baron Cinder, he vows to get revenge for Billy, to make those who did this pay dearly. John Constantine finally understanding that Weather Wizard is no longer around and they have failed on their task in almost every single way. Because right now he has Supergirl in Australia waiting for the sun to come out. That way she can top off her tank and she can fight off the biters. Damian working to undermine Grayson's entire operation from the inside. This is when Captain Cold, he chimes in, letting it be known that he can do what needs to be done, saying that if he can get to Australia, he can help them. He may not be able to clear all the ash away like Weather Wizard was going to, but what he can do is he can freeze it. He can freeze all of the ash out of the sky above Supergirl. Give her the time she needs to charge up her batteries. That is when John Constantine goes over to Mary and he tries to give her a pep talk. Tries letting her know that right now, more than ever, they need her. Because they need her to take Captain Cold to Australia. While they have this conversation, what they see is Billy's cloak. It floats on the wind, making its way directly to them. But that means that he is here. Mary knows exactly what this is. In an instant, we see Baron Cinder come piling down on top of our heroes, with him letting us know that even at a fraction of his power, he is going to tear them all limb from limb. Booster Gold recognizing that they do not stand a freaking chance. Midnighter knows this to be true. Running the calculations, he doesn't care. He is going to fight. They are going to do everything that they can. Midnighter saying to hit him hard and do not let up, to try and catch him off balance. Midnighter going in, but we see Baron Cinder grab hold of him, and he rips Midnighter in freaking half. That is when Booster Gold, he creates little force fields inside the skull of Superman. He is trying to shut him down for good, but we see a blast come from Superman, his heat vision coming out. Before Booster Gold can even get out a sentence, we see his body, it's sliced in half, and his two parts fall to the ground. Deathstroke being the last one of them standing. John Constantine is trying to convince Mary Marvel that she needs to change. She needs to take Captain Cold out of here now before all is lost. We're seeing that Deathstroke's sword, it very much can at least wound Superman, cutting him across his gut and blood coming out. But this is not enough to stop him. Superman turns around and he punches Deathstroke so hard he goes flying. In that moment, this looks to be the end of Deathstroke. This is when Mary transforms. She says Shazam, and she goes in on Baron Cinder, with each of them laying down some heavy blows on one another. Baron Cinder still gets the upper hand, grabbing Mary Marvel, picking her up, getting ready to end her life right here, right now. That is when Baron takes a sword from the back and it is driven right through his body. Deathstroke being the one to hold that sword, letting Superman know that you forgot the first rule. Never turn your back on Deathstroke unless you are sure that he is dead. With Baron Cinder being destroyed, Mary Marvel holds on to Deathstroke as he takes his last dying breath. Deathstroke was able to make Azrael's sword work. Probably the only weapon that could have saved them in this moment. With Deathstroke fading away, Captain Cold lets her know that he is gone, that they don't have any more time to waste, they have to go. Because Captain Cold, he was still bit by a vampire, which means the process of vampirism is slowly working its way through his body. Not knowing if he will be able to fight off everything going on, they have to get him back over to Australia before it fully kicks in. That is when Mary Marvel grabs hold of Captain Cold and they take off, leaving behind John Constantine. What we see is that Deadman is there with him. Deadman asking if he is going to tell Mary Marvel that at the end there, it wasn't Deathstroke, it was Deadman. Because when Baron Cinder had punched Deathstroke, it did in fact kill him. Deadman possessed his body to give the last deadly blow to Baron Cinder. But John Constantine has no intention of saying anything to Mary. That there is no point in letting her know that. To let her have this moment, to let her believe that Deathstroke in his last dying breath had saved her life. With John Constantine leaving and Deadman disappearing, we see Midnighter, the man that was torn in half by Superman. He sits up, the top half of his body, looking around and saying hello. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up in Gotham City. We have the Birds of Prey, Black Canary, Harley Quinn, Batgirl, Damian Wayne, and Frankenstein's monster. They are currently battling off the hordes of biters that are coming for them, as vampires turn to ash underneath their blades. Damian is just hoping that Babs has some kind of plan, because as it stands, they are severely outnumbered. The hordes of vampires are descending down on them. Luckily for them, the heavy hitters, they are not currently here, but it will only be a matter of time before they show their faces. So whatever Barbara Gordon has planned, it needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. That is what takes us to Australia. We have our Wonder Twin, we have Steel, and we have Supergirl finding a way into the facility where these ships and rockets are being shot from. They are trying with everything they can to get Supergirl up into the upper atmosphere and get that sunlight. As they put on some disguises, taking the clothes off of the guards, what they find is that the guards are not vampires. They are aliens. Because the vampires have aliens doing the dirty work. They won't risk an interplanetary incident. Nightwing wanted to get rid of anyone that the vampires can't turn or feed off. Martian Manhunter had warned that executing hundreds of aliens would cause a galactic crisis. And so he made deals to ship them back to their home worlds. In exchange, all of those planets will steer clear of Earth. So that is what is going on with these ships. These ships are taking what is left of the alien races and sending them back home. But as they make their way through this facility, that is when they run into the main man. They run into Lobo, being hired by Dick Grayson. It is his job to ensure nobody like these guys are able to get through. And while Steel thinks he might be able to do something, we see Lobo put him down, grab the Wonder Twin, and have a gun pointed at Supergirl before any of them can actually do anything. He knows what they're trying to do. He knows that they are trying to get these aliens shipping out of here and recruit them to their lost cause. His job is to make sure this does not happen. But if Lobo is anything, he is consistent. He is an opportunist. So anytime he gets a deal put before him, he always contemplates it, he wonders, and he weighs his options. And so with Supergirl offering him this deal, we are taken to Smallville. We have Grifter, we have Green Arrow, and we have the Swamp Thing. Green Arrow bringing in the Swamp Thing as his secret weapon. Green Arrow is letting Grifter know to round up as many people as you can. Put one of these weapons in their hands. A weapon, a spike, coming from the Swamp Thing. This was his way of sneaking in an entire armory without anybody being aware of it. He lets Grifter know that now is the time to fight. Now is the time that we take them on, that we free the people, and we take down Hawkman. As they prepare for battle, we are taken over to Gotham. At this point, our heroes are completely surrounded as they run out of options. This is where we see members of the Bat family show up. From Spoiler to the Signal, they have come in blaring as much light as they can possibly get. Our heroes getting the opportunity to jump on the motorcycles, they make their getaway. With them being safe, at least for the moment, we are taken back over to Lobo, secretly escorting the three heroes to one of the ships. It doesn't take long for Martian Manhunter to catch on to what is happening, as Lobo trying to break through the gates, trying to convince the guard to let him through. Martian Manhunter and his daughter, they come up to him, trying to figure out what is going on, trying to figure out what his true intentions are. Lobo wastes no time letting them know exactly what is going on. With Steel calling him a traitor, he takes his hammer and he goes for Martian Manhunter. Lobo lifting up his pistol, blowing the guard's head right off of his shoulders. The fight is ensuing, with Martian Manhunter letting him know that you shouldn't have come here. He was going to know what the plan was. He was going to sense it, that all of his efforts, they are futile. And so as Steel and Lobo struggle on this battle, we are taken back over to Gotham. Our heroes making their getaway with the horde of vampires right on their tail. Canary able to use her ability and blow them back temporarily. That is when Gorilla Grodd shows up. He starts smashing, knocking some of our heroes off. We see the bat signals turn on. The entire street lights up. This puts Gorilla Grodd at pause, and it gives Barbara Gordon the opportunity to go for Nightwing. As they get past all of the barricades, they land on the other side, believing that they got lucky, that they are able to go and get Dick Grayson. Looking ahead of them, this is where they see some of the heavy hitters. From Power Girl to Wonder Girl, from KG Beast to Mr. Freeze. The heavy hitters are back on scene. Picking back up with Martian Manhunter, he has Steel on the ground, appearing to be relatively beat. Though he is not dead, he is messed up. This is when he goes up to our Wonder Twin and Supergirl, letting her know that this is where her journey ends, that he has become so much more powerful. But he lets the Wonder Twin know that this is not her fight, that he will ensure that she is returned back to her home world, but she has to stay out of it. Ripping off the cloak of Supergirl, it is revealed that this is not Supergirl. This is just the Wonder Twin using her power and ability to make it look like someone is underneath that cloak, because Martian Manhunter, he had been tricked. What he had sensed was not what he expected, because Supergirl, she had snuck around, she made her way onto a ship already. That ship, it is now blasting off into space. That is when Martian Manhunter screams at everybody to shoot it down, that they can't allow it to get above the clouds. They cannot allow her to see that sunlight. With a giant explosion, it appears that the ship has gone into flames, that Supergirl has been taken down, and what seems as one of the last hopes of humanity, it has been destroyed. Alright gang, before we dive into this one, I do want to throw out a quick thing saying make sure you check out my other videos, Action Comics 1050 and Jon Stewart Emerald Knight. DC Comics put out some great stuff today, so be sure to go check those out. When it comes to DC versus vampires, we are jumped right into the fray. The Battle of Gotham is currently ongoing. The first one taken off the board almost immediately is Duke. He is sacrificing himself so that Barbara Gordon, Harley Quinn, and spoiler, they can make it to Dick Grayson. As they try to make their getaway, that is where they are intercepted by none other than Wonder Woman. Now, one of the generals in the vampire army, she is letting Barbara Gordon know that the Highness would like to see her. That is what takes us over to Australia. They had attempted to get Supergirl up into space, to get her past the clouds and get all of those sun rays. The only problem, Martian Manhunter, he found out about their plan. The ship that she was on, it exploded, having Steel lying on the ground bloody and broken. That is where John Constantine comes into the picture. He has been astro projecting himself all over the place, trying to coordinate this battle. As John Constantine looks at Steel, letting him know that he is going to get help here soon, he looks up to the sky to see the ship that is destroyed. As it stands, they have no idea what the outcome is for Supergirl. But that is what takes us over to Smallville. The riot is in full effect. Green Arrow and Grifter side by side taking down vampires. But these guards, the main force, these are what is truly scary. What they have to fight against next. The commander of this prison. That is the vampiric Hawkman. As they fight for survival, we are taken to our vampire king, Barbara Gordon and Harley Quinn arriving with Wonder Woman, telling Diana that she can leave the room, with Harley Quinn and Barbara staying in here. This is where the conversation truly begins, with Dick Grayson asking right off the bat, "Did you come here to kill me?" And while Barbara doesn't say she came here to kill him, what she does say is she came here to stop him. More than anything, she wants an explanation. Why has this happened? Why have you become this person? How is it possible that the man that she loves could have done all of this? This is when Dick Grayson, he goes on this rant comparing eating human beings to being the same thing as eating cattle or chicken or anything of that nature. That we morally justify killing creatures to eat them, and he is doing the same thing. And of course, Barbara knows that this is just deflection. This is when Harley Quinn really starts to recognize that we came here for a reason, and it seems that Barbara may be going off that path. She wants so badly an explanation that she is not doing what needs to be done. Because what Dick Grayson is doing is trying to convince her to join him. Admitting that he has done things wrong, but he needs her by his side. Needs her conscience, her compassion. That together they can save everything. Even going as far as saying that everybody can coexist, but he needs her by his side. With Harley Quinn hearing enough, she jumps in to try and stake Dick Grayson. Jumping us all the way to Australia, we have the arrival of Mary Marvel along with Captain Cold. Now, for this plan to truly work, they needed Supergirl. That was the whole point of all of this. Captain Cold on the verge of turning into a vampire. Constantine goes ahead and he sends Mary Marvel looking for what remains of whatever Supergirl is, hoping that she might still be alive. We pick back up with Dick Grayson, grabbing hold of Harley Quinn, having her in his grasp. with Babs pulling out her wooden stake. Nightwing lets it be known that killing him isn't going to change things, that Clark or Diana, either one of them, are going to take his place if he falls. With him dropping Harley Quinn, he tries to get closer to Babs, asking what they do now. Is this the part where you kill me? That's when she starts to truly really break down, because she doesn't know what to do here. She knows what she should do, but this is the man that she loves unconditionally. The truth is, Dick Grayson ruined everything, took everything from her. Her father, Bruce, everyone she has ever cared about, the entire world. But she is also sick and tired of fighting. She is so tired of losing. This is where we see Nightwing preparing to bite Babs on the neck as tears run down her face. Jumping us over to Smallville, we have the battle in full effect. That is where Hawkman enters the scene, coming in for Green Arrow. Hawkman truly believes that he has the upper hand, because Green Arrow hit him with some arrows, but they didn't stop him. Not at first. But these arrows are made from Swamp Thing. And we see those arrows, they grow, they turn into vines, and they rip Hawkman apart. As we jump back over to Australia, Mary Marvel was able to find the body of Supergirl. By all appearances, it looks like she is dead. This is when Captain Cold lets it be known that he was lying, that this situation is all too big for him, that Weather Wizard, he could have done this job. The truth is, Captain Cold doesn't believe that he can. This is when Constantine says that they would have preferred to have Weather Wizard. The truth is, he died and they are stuck with Captain Cold. Regardless if he believes he can do this or not, he needs to attempt to, even if it is simply just his cold gun. This is the last hope for humanity. Humankind is about to die at the feet of Captain Cold. As he shoots that gun up into the air, we see the weather begin to change. There is a small break. We see the sunlight come in, and this gives the charge to Supergirl that she needed, with Martian Manhunter and Mary Marvel fighting against one another. That is where Supergirl comes in, using her vision and burning right through Martian Manhunter. Now having up a powered up Kryptonian, the tide of this battle, it looks to change. That is where we pick up with Babs and Dick Grayson, letting her know that she is dying and that she needs to drink his blood. At first she hesitates, but then we see Babs, she bites his wrist, telling Harley Quinn that he had finally given Babs what she truly wanted. But Babs says that she wants so much more, kissing Dick Grayson. Now they go to feast on Harley Quinn. At first, Harley tries to say that you can't do that, but Babs stops her, letting Dick Grayson go first. He bites into Harley Quinn, but what he didn't know is that biting Harley Quinn, that is an instant death for any vampire. With Wonder Woman and Gorilla Grodd coming into the room, finding the body of Ash that was Nightwing. And it looks like there might be a fight that is about to happen, but the hierarchy of vampires, when you kill the king, when you kill the queen, you take command, which means Babs is now queen of the vampires. She goes on to say that Dick Grayson, he had a weakness. That weakness was Barbara Gordon. She had the same weakness for him. They wanted to save each other, but when she knew that she couldn't save him, she was willing to sacrifice everything to stop him. He was not strong enough to do the same. Now that she is a vampire, now that she has shed away her weaknesses, she is not going to make the same mistake that he did. Their enemies, humankind, have almost fallen. What remains is a broken, ragtag crew of small resistance pockets. She says that she is going to lead the vampire race. With nobody left to challenge her authority, this war is over. That she was the last casualty. Because when she died, the last thing humanity had left to cling to died with her. That last thing was hope. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You know, I have been pretty critical of this story, but I think with issue number 12, it landed pretty well. If we can look past the loopholes, the unbelievable aspects of some of these characters being able to be turned into vampires. Some of them being able to turn against their vampirism, if you will. Some of them having the willpower to work on the side against vampires. A lot of it doesn't really make sense, but for the sake of the story that they did, really closing it out, it's not bad. You know, Barbara Gordon turning into the Queen of Vampires. It's something that I really did suspect might happen, but I didn't know if they were actually going to do it. But this story is definitely left wide freaking open, with her now the Queen of Vampires, having Harley Quinn, the cure of vampire in her blood. Damian Wayne now going to have a new target, but also knowing that he is going to be an enemy of the state. But while Barbara Gordon, she does believe that she has taken away all hope of humanity, she didn't know everything that John Constantine was doing. She is unaware that the literal symbol of hope is still alive. That Supergirl has been able to reach the sunlight. There is a Kryptonian still alive, now charging up and preparing for the most epic of battles. That hope that Barbara Gordon believed that she snuffed out, it is still very much alive, and it is in Australia. But let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you would like to get completely caught up on everything that happened with DC versus vampires, be sure to check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It is gonna get you completely caught up on everything that happened in this event. If you would like to support the channel, go ahead and check out the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having 5 different tiers, from $1 to $50. From loyalty badges to getting free comics every single month. Not only does this help out the channel, but you are also getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you are unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.